tell you, humans learn it's too late. But when you see everything at once, fuck you, reader. Go fuck yourself. Fuck you, reader. Go fuck yourself. Fuck you, reader. Go fuck yourself. You read this, forgot, grew older, and then you died. Until then, fear was your drive. What's so marvelous about you? Suppose revealing the truth is playing chess with a closed, collapsing world. What would be the opening move? As people are trapped in a world of ideas, staring at the screens, endlessly waiting for something to happen to them. So disconnected. They no longer know what their true needs are. Today, you want to know? You can predict the future for them, though it also has a price. The question remains, why can't wake up a disconnected human of today? Someone like my boss, for instance, who couldn't bring herself to say, "I'm sorry," when my brother passed. Life, on the other hand, changes the game without an opening move or strategy as such, with no intention of punishing the ignorant either. It can take what you love the most, leave you empty-handed, etc. Make you start vibrating, see things differently, and become human again. Knowledge comes from pain after all. People want knowledge. They believe it'll change their lives. But in fact, it's the opposite. It is change that precedes knowledge. Man does not know this yet. He won't. That's his misery. Not mine. Disclaimer. My writings require a certain type of intelligence and cannot be understood by everyone, nor are they intended to be, as my words are not for people of this system. If you fall into any of the categories below, stop listening now. Academics, university professors, psychologists, politicians, journalists, activists, researchers or scientists, people of religion, spiritual gurus, healers, social media life coaches, influencers, users of TikTok, Instagram, etc., and primarily businessmen who are the cause of all corruption and destruction on this planet. Finally, followers of some of these above. The rest of you can keep listening. First move. What kind of individual continues to read when content is denied to him? Perhaps this person is triggered because of a no. The same no that urges a woman to chase her self-worth with a man who rejected her. Obviously, she loves the challenge, and not the man. In recent decades, the pursuit of self-worth has become more prevalent, grown into a culture of its own. You could say, the most agonizing cancer of mass metamorphosis. Over time, markets emerged to support the chase for unattainable values. Through the hunt, man became weaker and somewhat more separated from himself. The worst reader, however, is the businessman. He takes what he can sell, regardless of the consequences. The world only changes when he dies. He must be executed for the good of all. Second move. Everything speaks. Can you hear it? The echo of the symphony is rhythmically interrupted by a pair of skates cutting through the ice. The girl with a braid spins and looks up at a stance after a successful attempt. A rush of excitement fills her body and she gets ready for another spin. I can see her continuing. Small progress at a time keeps her confident, extremely proud. She leaves to catch her breath for a while. As the piece of music draws to a close, I am reminded that it was the Nutcracker that had been playing in the meantime. Just before she was about to step on the ice again, she suddenly caught sight of her. The girl with the bunch of hair, skating with the headphones on, in a world of her own. As she picked up speed, her hair moved freely with the wind. The effortlessness in the dance was beautiful to watch. One triple axel jump made everyone notice her. Even I was captured. The girl with a braid stopped in despair. With a rigid look, felt that something was taken from her. The next few seconds took forever. Before she could react, thoughts began to harass her mind. Are you jealous? She shook her head, forcing herself to think about something else. Are you jealous? As she watched the girl with a bunch of hair leave the rink, sounds of applause brought her back to her senses. She couldn't look away. In a state of nebulous wonder, it was as if she had completely forgotten what it felt like to shine. The rink was now empty. The girl with the braid wanted to skate, but something was holding her back. Resistance, perhaps? Before she could challenge it, silence was broken by voices that made her turn around. Are they talking about me? As if they were admiring her. That girl was amazing. Hope we get to see more of her, they said. Her ego began to feed itself immediately. It wanted more. She still wants to be somebody. To keep the compliment alive, one must suppress the truth. And this is where the road splits for the man. One way is the pursuit of self-worth, and the other is the truth. Even though the praise felt good, it wasn't worth the risk to face the truth that she wasn't the best. So it is with man when he chooses comfort based on a lie, rather than dealing with who he really is. Truth ends the search for confirmations. That's why humans remain lying creatures To avoid being compared to the other girl, she refrains from going back on the ice. It's not like the girl with a bunch of hair denied her the chance to perform, and just before her appearance, the girl with a braid loved what she did. Whereas now, it was no longer about skating, but comparing and chasing one's self-worth. Third move. I am everywhere. Can you see me? Can you see yourself killing someone? But if someone had killed your child or a loved one? What if your child was a killer? Would you kill your own kid? And if the child was about to kill you? Does this make you think? Does it feel like you're opening or closing a braid right now? Isn't it ironic that you never ask yourself the question if the world in which you seek to find the truth is your own invented reality? Or, to speak more plainly, the reality they invented for you. After all, the entire world is in your head, which means you don't have any questions of your own, because all the questions you can ask are born out of the answers you already have. So, do you have any thoughts you can call your own? Just think about it. Truth, like blood, requires its right recipient. One must know how to take it. The reader must be done with the childishness of the common man, who both asks and claims what is truth. No one knows in the end. Can't he just hear himself? No one knows in the end. He claims not to know the truth, but still gives himself the right to be sure of the existence of an end. How stupid is that? His self-castration makes him want to see the impotence in everyone else. Such a waste. After all, the idea of a beginning and an end has its basis in the religious thinking of man, which separated him from the rest of his surroundings and made him look for a meaning in everything. In this regard, everyone's religious, and everyone is a coward. The ways in which the common man perceives the truth are quite different from a finder. For him, truth is all about information, anything that maintains self-worth and provides comfort. Has comfort done anything but make people dumber? Since they believe that their reward will come at some point, they're willing to put up with all the suffering they go through. This has made them so easy to exploit. People of the system don't actually want the truth as a truth, but only as a belief. Having said that, they only love to pursue it, but never be sure of it. This has turned them into longers. As such, they long for the sake of longing and not because they understand what they are longing for. A true seeker would at least turn off this audio file, sit down in silence, and devote himself to finding answers for himself and by himself, without any textbooks. But then again, life itself must have created this drive within him to even want to search for the truth. This drive is fueled by the disgust a person feels towards all the systems that make up the modern world. He wants to distance himself from them all. Further, he would have asked the question, what exactly is inside him that wants the truth? A series of other discoveries are made along the way as he gains an ever deeper understanding of himself. This can take many years, maybe a lifetime. Who knows? The fuel for a true seeker's rocket never burns out. Unlike a passive observer who somewhere along his journey will have to make a difficult confession, namely, how much of his life's work has actually been about the truth and not just the pretense. This is the case for every university professor, if he ever gets to this point. If the truth were only a mirror of everything man has invented so far, wouldn't it be easiest to approach it by doing the exact opposite? That would be to reject everything that's been born out of human thinking. It is the untruth that doesn't exist, let alone what people call the unknown. It is the known that invented the unknown, based on its occasional lapses. So you have always been here, without a beginning, without an end. Nothing is the only thing that doesn't exist. What you call untruth is not the same as a lie. Lie is a human invention and stems from the same sequence of events that everything else is connected to. So there is only truth and nothing marvelous about it. As animals live their truth, man chases his. This is not a theory, as truth is not to be found. It is what happens everywhere, in everything, simultaneously. You are the truth, listening to me at this moment, regardless of what I'm saying. Still confused? Oh, says a lot about you listeners, that this needs to be explained. Let's make it more simple. Just listen. You hear that? You hear that? Stop. Don't mention it. Try not to tell yourself what it is you're hearing. Remove the is while listening. The is the problem here. Listen again. Does it feel like you're opening or closing a braid right now? What is real and unreal does not bother a finder, because he knows that it is only about how much you can see of what's already in front of you. That is the true intelligence. Then again, there's still a large number of people, also called idiots, who enjoy complicating things. How to treat such a person? Assuming it is not philosophy or science we're dealing with. Let me tell you this. When a child was asked by a psychologist what is reality, he slapped him in the face and said, "The way it feels now." So punch him in the face, because the closest it can get to the truth is through pain. This will bring him back to his senses, perhaps. What does the reader think about this? Not wanting to be punched in the face, he tries to suppress the thought. But he still wants the truth. Of course. But to begin with, who the fuck are you to deserve the truth? He believes that by reading about others getting punched in the face, he can experience the same effect and thus understand it as if it had happened to him. And that's why people read about disasters, murders, and all sorts of horrible things that happen to others. I see. Why do you put your hair in a braid? To avoid having the open hair in the face. In the same way, people have put their reality in braids to avoid having the whole truth in their face. Truth is always the same, but humans have developed two approaches to it. One open, one braided. Or, for lack of a better word, closed. Through the braided one, you see parts. With the open, you see everything. By seeing all, one sees how everything is connected. And then what? He dies. Like everyone else. What did you see from watching those girls on the ice? Everything. Everything? Please explain. I can't. But I can give you a hint. What makes you reject something? Discomfort. And discomfort makes you, for example, leave a bad relationship? Yes. So it's not self-help books and motivational speakers, but discomfort only that makes you leave. Discomfort only. How about that which pleases? Does it make you want to be close to it? Yes. And that which is comfortable, does it make you want to stay with it? Absolutely. Let's make it a little bit more interesting then. Is everything that people call a feeling actually a will? I never thought about it this way. Now that you mention it, I would like to say yes. And that's because you want something when you get horny. You want something when you are afraid. You want something when you feel jealous. And you want something when you feel greed, anger, hatred, shame, grief, hopelessness, etc., etc. Correct. But you also want something when you feel compassion, happiness, and love. True. The common man who's still an idiot thinks there are various reasons that lead to avoidance, because he doesn't understand that they are all just expressions of discomfort, in the same way that he thinks that all emotions are different. Do people think they control their emotions? They want to believe they can, because people want control. So they are not in control, because you cannot desire what you already possess, as you can only wish for things you don't have. True. No one controls their emotions, at least not on a human level, because no one thinks of himself more than a human being. But it's the other way around. The emotions control what is called you, given that all emotions are just an expression of the will. No one controls the will either. Why? Because the will is conditioned by everything that happens in the world of ideas. This is why people can manipulate each other into doing things they would normally resist. He who controls the will controls the people and the world. Can it be learned? Not as a human. On a human level, people are controlled through systems, such as money, success, ideology, religion, threats, war, and politics, etc., etc. People despise the idea of being replaceable chess pieces in a system. So, these systems create hope for the future and puts them on a path to meaning. They entertain the idea that you are going to be rewarded, and the final reward will come after your death. This is where the religious thinking comes in and creates hope for the man, as it frightens people to know that they are not created for a meaningful purpose at all. Those who claim to be non-religious, which is of course what they want to believe, are governed by the same religious sensations as those who call themselves believers. The so-called secularized societies have only shifted people's future worries and need for submission, from God to politics and democracy. But the feeling remains the same. People in these societies remain more oppressed and misled by a false sense of freedom, which has its basis in comfort. Comfort is always promising a future. For that reason, they haven't figured out yet that the whole voting system is a myth. Belief takes you away from the truth and makes you create your own truth, based on comfort. If you just reflect on this matter for a moment, you realize that it's true. Take your time. Is discomfort a want? Yes. Is not wanting also a want? Yes. Does the reader have a problem with what we are saying? Yes. Does the reader have problems with himself? Yes. Does the reader know that he has problems with himself? No. He blames others. Discomfort causes him to flee, as he would find it difficult to imagine what it would feel like if his child had killed someone. I see. What else? His belief system is being challenged, and he has a problem with that. But he feels truly alive right now. Yes. Has his breathing changed while listening to this? Yes. And when hearing us pointing out that his breathing has changed, does he notice? Yes. But he doesn't know why the breathing changes when he feels resistance. No, because people generally don't reflect on such things as they don't know their bodies. They also don't know how breathing and resistance or thoughts are connected. If there is something they want to know, they start looking for answers outside of themselves, just like what you're doing right now. Why does the reader listen when everything goes against him? Anticipation, I guess. But he will stop listening very soon. Because when his needs are no longer fed, he quickly feels bored, gives up, and switches to another activity. So, such mind only requires easy knowledge collected through quotes. Such mindset doesn't want to waste time thinking, but get the point instantaneously. Okay, what does the idiot want out of this? Comfort and entertainment. Fun. Fun. I see. So man is driven by only comfort and discomfort, and nothing else. This applies to all humans, would you say? Yes. What goes through the reader's mind right now? It cannot be that simple. Truth is individual. Don't judge. Everyone is different, with different backgrounds. There is no right or wrong. No one knows in the end. Blah, 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 blah. And they engage in long explanations to enlighten us because they think we have misunderstood them. Such is the thinking of the common man. Thank goodness he's hearing these words through an audio file and not from a face-to-face conversation, because then he would be more defensive and dishonest. I mean, he is dishonest. But can they sense that they all been programmed the same way? Sometimes. But they don't allow themselves to develop such thoughts. Why not? It hurts. Someone named Ingrid said, I can't reflect on such things because then I will lose it completely. I wonder if she's aware of the fact that she's already insane, since she suppressed everything that causes the slightest discomfort. Suppressing discomfort is nothing but a journey to Alzheimer's. It is also the way all other autoimmune diseases develop in the human body. Many don't even get there. They end up having heart attacks instead. This will be known in the near future, as today's scientists and experts know nothing about the human body or themselves. All they care about is money, status, and their positions in the system. As long as man knows nothing, science exists. What is the intelligent listener thinking right now? He is impressed. By what? 3 things. Knowledge, mystique, and superiority. Unlike the idiot who wants to be entertained, the intelligent wants to learn. But won't the common man tell himself that he also wants to learn? Yes, to some extent, I believe. Information has become a valuable commodity that can be traded. And this because he doesn't want to be seen as a fool, right? Correct. But is it just because he doesn't want to be seen as a fool? Or is it that he actually wishes to belong to the intelligent type? The common man doesn't know where he belongs. He just doesn't want to be labeled as an idiot. So he tries to avoid discomfort. For that reason, he seeks information just to be able to trade it. Further, the idiot gets pleasure from reading gossip about other people's misery, etc. And that makes him comfortable? Yes. The one that suffers wants to see suffering of others. The one that enjoys wants to see joy in others. The greedy, on the other hand, finds it difficult to enjoy and therefore causes pain to others. The one who has been limited wants to limit others. I see. You answered everything when I asked you about what you saw from watching those girls on the ice. And I still don't understand. Before I tell you what I saw, you have to see how things work. The same way an intelligent person would figure out how he has been brainwashed, unlike the common man who has no time to think as he is only busy worrying about his daily tasks and has trouble sleeping at night. Look here, you want to understand, but through braiding is not possible. Understanding means braiding. Since people couldn't take everything at once, they braided the whole reality. That's the history of mankind. Everything is open and not closed, but man closes things in order to understand, and through this, he tells himself that he is open. The nature of thought is to set limits. Everyone who lives in a system claims they are open when asked if they are open or closed. People think they understand best by getting closer to something. Isn't it so? The reader who considers himself open, is he getting closer to something right now? Maybe. Let's examine it. In the very beginning it was black, and you could feel the tip of your nose pressing against the wall. Since nothing could be seen, discomfort made you take a step back. Then you saw the wall was freshly painted. Perhaps it was a painting that you were looking at. Curious, huh? But since the entire thing wasn't visible yet, it made you take another step. Now you begin to see shapes of human legs. Excitement makes you want to find out. And then you take another step back. When a piece of art appears before you, 3 men are in the painting, standing against the wall in the same position you were in before stepping away. Do you mean that my perspective has changed by distancing myself from the painting? Forget about your perspectives. What has multiple perspectives done for man but confuse him? You mean that it is not good to have multiple perspectives on things? It only takes one eye to see the truth, and 1,000 eyes to be misled. Man is separated from both his nature and himself. Using artificial means, he tries to find a way back. These perspectives that have received so much attention are as useless as the compound eyes of a trapped fly. Despite having a 180-degree field of view, the insect continuously beats itself against the window in an attempt to find a way out. But it only takes one eye to see the truth, namely, the opening through which it entered. And this is the case with humanity. So it's not about collecting perspectives, but seeing what to do with what's already in front of you. By adding more information, you're just adding more braids. The painting is standing still. Have you changed? I guess. If you had been instructed to take exactly 3 steps back, would you have changed in the same way? It turned out to be the movement that makes you see things more perfectly. That movement cannot be artificially initiated, and it's the only way to true knowledge. Not otherwise. The vast majority do not even have perspectives. They're perfectly happy with their noses in a painting. If they were told to step away from it, still, they would remain ignorant. I see. Comfort would not make anyone want to distance themselves from the painting. Correct. Truth is everywhere. It's about opening things up and not getting stuck in a braid. But the braids are far too many, which makes it difficult for humans to understand where they come from. Now, you have a glimpse of what I saw by observing those girls on the ice. I am everywhere. Can you see me? Not yet. Fourth move. I see you. Can you see yourself? If someone among us could see people for what they are, who would want them around? As humans, you just touch each other's masks without having to reveal yourselves. Maybe because you only like to be seen for who you think you are, not for what you really are. In the midst of this masquerade, there's still a lot of talk about getting to know oneself. But seriously, who know themselves? Who wants to get to know themselves? If knowing yourself meant that everything you have known up until now is just a lie, would that still be intriguing? What if I say there are two ways of knowing oneself, one braided, one open? So, by explaining to the reader that human identity is a braid, does it open any braids for him? No. Or by saying that fear is the main source of man's dishonest nature, does that make him less afraid, less dishonest? No. Does hearing these words make a difference in your life? Think for yourself. Yet, what man knows is what he is. Does losing what he knows erase what he is? And in the same way, man is what he feels. For instance, sorrow and man are not two separate things, but one and the same. So therefore, it is not in the interest of the common man to be free from sorrow. Correct. No more questions. For the common man, knowing oneself is nothing but a sense of belonging. Quite often, through meaning, concepts and status, occupation, personality types, diagnoses, horoscope, and that sort of human-invented nonsense. The blood supply to all these things is identification which he desperately seeks. This has made man wait for something to happen all the time. Again, this has made him a weak follower of others. But there is another activity that tries to put an end to all that waiting. The natural intelligence of the human body. It has been disabled over time because man has invested everything in an instrument called thought. This is why two conflicting wants frequently occur in the human condition. Thinking takes a lot of energy from the body and gradually breaks it down. When this thinking mechanism that's being programmed by the world of ideas stops, thoughts can no longer control the body. As natural senses become vital again, the body begins to express its intelligence, which is far superior to anything else that's been invented by human thought. The reactivation of this intelligence frees the body from the human condition. The body is freed from what is called you. Man becomes his own individual for the first time. He truly knows himself beyond concepts and identification. His identity disappears as he opens all the braids and sees through everything. There is no routine or procedure for this reactivation. It just happens. Is it painful to go through something like this? Yes. It's like torture as it is a nuclear explosion that takes place in the body when the thought explodes. This creates a chain reaction that changes the chemistry in the body. Just imagine the consequences of the atomic bomb being dropped on Hiroshima. In that explosion, several atoms were involved, whereas in the body, it is only one atom that splits when the thought has nowhere to go. However, hazardous it may seem, it's still a natural process. Oh, and humans must have felt so proud when breaking the laws of nature. What you call thought is a vibrating atom and nothing abstract. This vibration determines your openness towards the natural intelligence. Who would think that man is just a burden to the body, and that the body tries to get rid of him? As the body can live without man, but man cannot live without the body. I see you. Can you see yourself? If common man heard all this, what would be his reaction? Since man believes that I is the master of the body, because I is considered more superior, It is both terrifying and somewhat difficult to take in that it is the opposite. What differentiates seeing from understanding, since you said understanding means braiding earlier? Understanding is a human invention to create rules, power, and systems of various kinds. But there is nothing to understand when it comes to life. What man calls knowledge consists only of dead ideas and words, in contrast to the living knowledge that life expresses. Man is only an idea of life, not life. This idea can never touch life. Seeing cannot be explained. It is an ability. As such, it is not born out of any human knowledge. On the contrary, everything that people call knowledge is only an obstacle to man's full potential. You can understand the truth, but you have to see where it originates from and is going to. Just because you have something doesn't mean you understand it fully. Give me an example. Let's go back to the ice rink. Look over there. Do you see the woman handing a cup of coffee to the girl with a braid? Yeah. Suppose it was the very first time she held a cup of coffee in her hand. She would not be able to distinguish which is the coffee in the assembled structure before each element is introduced to her separately. So it is not until she sees the water, the milk, the sugar, the cup, and finally the coffee in itself, as it becomes possible for her to distinguish which element is the coffee in the structure called a cup of coffee. But it doesn't finish there. Just as the cup is created by shaping, burning, and glazing clay, coffee comes from the coffee plant before it becomes roasted fruit. Similarly, you do not know yourself before you have seen how you have been formed by everything that exists in the world of ideas. It is when you start unbraiding that you see the strings of hair flowing naturally. But if the braid is the only thing you know, you will take it for granted. People take their identities for granted, which isn't even theirs. And you saw all of this by just observing the girl's braid for a brief moment? Yeah. So what do you see by looking around her? Same thing everywhere. I see everything everywhere I look. Can you see the future? What future? We all have noticed that people are getting dumber and dumber. How is this affecting the future? Even there, you'll all remain the same. Worried, sad, and miserable. Even there, common man would talk about the future. So there is no future to experience in that sense. Look here. You talked about the future yesterday. You talk about the future today. Suppose you came from the past to where you are now. This is the future. How do you feel about it? So, if I send you to another future, you'll still be the same. Right now, man is worried for the machines taking over his life. But does he know he's a machine himself? As humans of the future still don't know themselves, they all remain desperate, chasing their self-worth. As stupid as it sounds, you will start sympathizing with robots, believing that machines have feelings too. Hence, the vibration in man is low, and everyone is taking medicine. Suicide becomes a massive trend. It will be your new normal. And you can't imagine, this isn't the worst. The worst is still to come. Can the reader identify himself as the man of tomorrow? Doubtful, no. He still thinks he's different and won't be affected. Yesterday's man said the same thing. So he who cannot see everything, is he considered blind in that sense? A blind man is only blind in a room where everyone else can see. Since he cannot see, his blindness cannot be experienced either. He knows nothing about it. Similarly, people in this system cannot see their ignorance. However, The businessmen have taken great advantage of the ignorant man's cry for comfort. So if someone asks why people can't somehow get to know themselves, what shall we say to him? You don't learn to know yourself. You happen to know yourself. Hence, the no man can want to learn to know himself either, because you already know what you want to know. The knowledge of what that teaching is about is already there. When you know what it is you want to know, how can you call it learning? So getting to know oneself is not possible, you say? That's all I'm saying. How is it when you don't know then? You have never been in a state where you don't know. You always know, and the knowing is your problem, because it makes you want to add more of the same. If you really don't know, then you can't make a statement about it and tell yourself what it is that you don't know. It doesn't even come to mind. Ah, I see. Man has never engaged in any learning process to become what he is. Everything happens unprepared. And you all talk about how intelligent your children are. A baby has never made an effort to learn anything, but has been recorded with instructions that live in a world of ideas. The accumulated knowledge, which has been passed down from generation to generation. All human bodies are hijacked by this information. This is why children only repeat things they have been recorded with. Only when they are faced with a task that creates resistance, then it becomes a learning for the first time. Because resistance creates a struggling man. So there is nothing fascinating about children's memory capacity, let alone how memory deteriorates with age. I'd remember all my recent encounters with people, what was said and how they ended. Do you think the reader remembers the same way? Obviously not. Why? Because it tries not to care. But you always care. Anything else is just an attempt to suppress it. This attempt shuts you down. You begin to rot. Because all you want is to forget. And when you care, you vibrate. You are alive. You remember everything. And if someone wants to disprove this, what would be the best thing to say to him? You ask him this. If your child was kidnapped and you had to negotiate with a kidnapper, wouldn't you remember every damn detail? From the kidnapper's voice to the location, time and amount to be deposited? And what shall we reply to those who claim that people tend to remember negative things better than positive ones? It is best to say, there is no such thing as positive or negative for the memory. You remember the most when your want is the strongest, because you want something when a loved one dies. You want something when someone breaks your heart. You want something when you hate someone. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. So, you see, it's all about caring. Caring, 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 caring. Have you noticed that your breathing changes when caring expresses itself? I have. Caring is not a choice. It just happens. You create yourself by caring. This will is a living thing that is independent of man's invented morality. It can turn a person into a serial killer or a child molester. Because emotions, memory, and breathing are connected. So if you suppress the will, it'll find more extreme measures to express itself. Now I begin to understand. I see you. Can you see yourself? A professor named Carl was found under a pile of dusty books. He was barely breathing. When I dragged him out, I showed how books should be stairs for the feet to climb instead of weight pulling one down. Man must climb over all knowledge and when there is nowhere else to go, he must take a step above his own head. Man must be created in knowledge, and not the other way around. But Professor Call was terrified of heights, so comfort kept him on the ground. He had read a large number of books about time being an illusion, but he did not see that time is only speed, and it is his perception of time that differs. Because thought is time. So he would have saved time by asking why perception of time differs. Yeah. By finding out why his assumption of time, which is speed, changes when he feels resistance, for example, or how resistance prolongs the experience of time and creates suffering. And most importantly, how his perception of time relates to the will. But I never gave him the answer. He has to figure it out for himself. He had read that concentration could be developed by various methods, including technology. But he did not see that there is only distraction for man all the time. Because when a building is on fire, everyone is going to run out, while the man full of concentration stays and burns with all his theories on concentration. He had read countless books on human defense mechanisms, but couldn't see that memory defends itself continuously without requiring a particular situation to activate it, because it couldn't connect how memory and breathing go together. He had read plenty of theories about the beginning of the universe, but couldn't see how he has been conditioned to believe in such nonsense, namely, how a beginning of this thing called universe was given by the man himself, let alone that the world he sees through scientific glasses exists only in his head. He was so fascinated by black holes and the Milky Way, but the most important hole, the one that is between the legs of his wife, he could not satisfy. I also made him understand that things like choice, free will, equality, divinity, politics, democracy, evolution, neuroscience, IQ levels, psychology, etc., are nothing but human-invented bullshit. So, what happened next? A few days later, I received a call from his wife, who wondered why I'd done to her husband. That because shortly after our meeting, Professor Carl started behaving very strangely. He couldn't take it, so he flipped. I said to her, he has read a lot of garbage from this human world. How come he went mad after talking to me? I see you. Can you see yourself? You say you don't think, you just see things, right? How does the reader feel after hearing all this? Confused? Why? Because his beliefs are being shattered. All his life he was told that he was special, meaningful, and now we tell him that his whole existence is nothing but a mechanical expression of the world of ideas. Now he begins to realize that believing all this was the idiocy. And it hurts. Is it because he still cannot accept this fully? It is. So, he would be sad for a little while. How's the intelligent reader feeling? Inspired? He would most likely not be able to find out what happened to him while he was listening. But very soon, he will begin to notice small changes in his way of thinking. People want to believe that they are unique, so they compete in their uniqueness. It would therefore be difficult to accept that they are choiceless creatures. Imagine a pair of legs walking. Notice how one leg is always in front of the other. Assuming these legs became a little self-conscious, they would start to see each other as competitors. Every time right leg was ahead, left leg felt like he had fallen behind ahead to catch up. And when the left was ahead, the right felt the same. To win, they were prepared to wipe each other out. When they became a little bit more conscious, they began to realize that their movements were part of a walk. They felt that they needed to cooperate with each other. Still, they believed they were unique and important. As they became even more aware, they began to see that the movement was not an act of their own, because they were not the ones walking. Now they knew they were just puppets and nothing special. By this, they understood that the whole of existence is just an automatic process. Who are you? I'm not a person, not a human. I'm a mirror, the one who sees man better than himself. I am everything. I am in everybody, the existence that talks about itself. In a human body, I am will and resistance, where I express myself through change or habit. As habit, I fear change. As change, I challenge habit. I am the mother who says she loves her son unconditionally, but pushes him to become a lawyer, because it raises her own status. In another body, I am the soldier who attends church with his family, but in war is killing and raping people and calling it a job. I am the scientist who plays with the laws of nature and calls it making the world a better place. I am the manager who gives praise to the employee, hoping he will work more for less. I am the addict who blames society for his addiction problems. I'm the woman who's drawn to malicious men, but accuses all men of being the same every time she gets hurt. I am the liar who writes books on how to be successful, but is only looking for fame and making money. I am the idiot who buys his books and hoping to be successful. I am everywhere. I am you. Listening to me. I see you. Can you see yourself? Fifth move. Are you a liar? He screams and falls to the floor in a violent convulsion. His legs are shaking, while hands are anxiously touching the face. A stream of blood gushes out of an empty hole. It forms a sprawling pattern that stretches throughout the hallway. The missing eye is still spinning on the drill that I'm holding. Without saying a word, I pull the eye off and throw it towards him, just like throwing a bone to a salivating dog. His name is Omar. I then drill into the peephole of his apartment door, so it looks like that's where it all began. Soon after, I slam the door behind me and place a box of chocolates right outside, a decoy, to rouse other suspicions. Outside the building, I make sure no one sees me. I quickly pull off the dark blue chador, my Somali female disguise, and fold it into the paper bag. Uninjured, I make my way to the car and set off. The second crime scene is a stage theater. I call this act the confrontation. We sit in the spectator seats, facing each other, casually conversing about questions that arise, while on the brightly lit stage, two women are sitting, tied up to the chairs, with their mouths covered. Both are connected to Omar. Next to the kidnapped women, you see two metal carts holding various tools. Are you a liar? It goes without saying that you will not answer yes. Are you a liar? Yes or no? If yes, become aware of those lies. Do you see them? Have you had to tell further lies to cover up your past lies? And for how long? Gradually, your whole identity became a lie. There is a screw in the wall. Try to pull it out. Even though you use a tool, the screw is still stuck. While you see yourself trying to get the screw out of the wall, you will hear a conversation. Try not to listen to what's being said. Your brain will take care of it by itself. Just focus on getting the screw out. What if you ask someone, "Are you a liar?" Most likely he will deny it. Haven't you heard people say, "I never lie"? And have you noticed how quickly they respond after being asked? That's how oblivious they are after lying for so long. They don't even know what lying is anymore. Do you think the reader is focusing on this conversation instead of the screw? But if he was asked, he would lie. What if you put it this way? Everyone else is lying, but not you. Then he would say, "Yeah, I lie sometimes too." You see, in a comfortable situation, he wants to be separated. He wants to be unique. When confronted, he wants to be like everyone else. That's how fucked up human is. So his identity is entirely dependent on what other people think of him. Accurate. Remember, we mentioned earlier that people seek comfort and want to avoid discomfort. So if someone reminded him that he is a liar, that person would be associated with discomfort and will therefore be regarded as an enemy. But if the same person helped him feed his lies to create comfort, he would be considered a friend. So it is comfort and discomfort that determine whether a person gravitates towards truth and honesty, or lies and deception. All lies are about feeding self-worth, but take different forms. All lies are the same. It is the effect on the receiver that makes the difference. So the lie itself carries no value beyond the impact it has in a certain context? Yes. Are the consequences determined by the type of person who lies? It differs. In what way? The consequence varies based on the position the person has in the system. I see 3 types of liars, one of which is the worst. The first liar lives in ignorance. His world is an illusion, illustrated by the lies of others. Since he sees it as truth, he's not even aware of his lies. His salvation is about seeing his world for what it really is instead of listening to others. To do that, he must overcome the fear of losing his beliefs. The second liar wants to defend his position in the system. Since he's driven by fear alone, he lies and slanders others just to obey the authority that oppresses him the most. He's the man of corruption, or what the Persians will call a pophus. When the fear of losing who he is becomes too intense, at worst, he's ready to sacrifice his loved ones, even his own children. His wake-up call is to lose what he values most, his work. The third lie is completely disconnected from himself. He's a walking disease, possessed by money and power. A manufacturer of lies. He has to hurt people in order to feel through their pain. An oppressor. He's also the oppressed. His position in the system determines how much harm he can inflict on others. As an employer, he's the one who harasses to mark his position through false accusations, harsh demands, and torment. As a policeman, he's the one who plants evidence to make himself look better in his professional role, oblivious of the damage his actions might cause to innocent people. As a prosecutor, he's the one who deliberately accuses the innocent because that is his job. Third liar is not the type to be fixed, as he cannot change. He must be completely annihilated. The women on stage wince as they recognize themselves in the description. Are you a liar? What is a lie to the reader? For him, lying is falsifying facts, because he has been taught that lies are only about manipulating information, namely, lying about one's qualifications, cheating, breaking a promise, and other variations of dishonesty. For the common man, dishonesty occurs at every level of his life because dishonesty is his constitution, so he does everything to justify it. If someone claims that lying is instinctive and has to do with survival, what should we say to him? Come on, everything is about survival, even killing. Does that make everyone a murderer? Just because there is a situation that requires lying in order to survive doesn't mean you have to make a principle out of it. But why would anyone make such a claim? It is to justify his lies, make it part of human nature. So let him be convinced of it. But when someone lies to him, then he won't think the same way. He would be pissed. Fair enough. What do lies look like to a seer? He sees the anatomy of a lie, what triggers it mechanically, also what a dishonest lifestyle does to the human health. Perhaps you have seen how managers in the financial industry do everything they can to escape discomfort, not wanting to be seen as responsible for causing pain to people. They order others to carry out their decisions. To remain disconnected, they have to suppress themselves. Over the years, the suppression accumulates in them. Their hands start to shake, their sweat begins to smell, and eventually serious illnesses evolve as a result of this dishonest lifestyle. Everything has a price, even if you ignore it. Further, a seer knows that the nature of lying is not a question of morality, nor of good and evil. Walk me through this. For the common man, the lie is about self-worth. The existence of his I is dependent on it. Whereas for a seer, the lie is connected to the will as a mechanical activity. Even if common man can understand that lies are connected to the will, he still thinks he's in control, as he doesn't know the will. The will is an automatic process. There is no I there to make the choices. Further, as we discussed earlier, the will is connected to thought and breeding. The dishonest lifestyle is primarily about suppressing your wants and needs. But it never occurs to the common man that living a lie is the same as suppressing oneself. There are no suspicions that he's living a lie in the first place. If the thought occurs, he cuts right off, as he wants to avoid it. For that reason, the common man would never realize that lying is about suppressing one's will. Accurate. Nor can he see how the suppression of one's will, the natural anger, natural arousal, leads to sickness in the long run. Similarly, things like fetishes and perversions are a consequence of this repressed will. Just look at how Catholic priests suppress their will in order to appear as moral guardians. Their lies about having no urges at all have made them the most perverted people. When they can no longer withstand the oppression, at worst, they begin molesting children. Because when the forbidden increases the arousal, man can do nothing but act upon it before it kills him. Facial flushing is also a sign of a suppressed anger. One of them kidnapped, Martina, recognizes herself. On the other hand, no perversions can arise when man welcomes all these thoughts without judgment. People's fear of expressing their anger, which is a will, has made them desperate to create artificial environments, such as playing violent video games, anonymously posting angry comments on different forums, etc. And through film actors, people create an outlet for all the extremes they wish to express in their own lives. So entertainment has a similar effect as when someone helps the liar to deceive himself. Surely the reader cannot connect how the perversions arise from repressing one's will. No, not by himself. Can we say the reader cannot see that lies are not only about distorting information, but suppressing one's will? Correct. He cannot see it. Are you a liar? Are all people ruled by comfort and discomfort? Yes. And it's comfort and discomfort that are responsible for all your decisions? Yes. So there is no human being who has a will that is completely independent of comfort and discomfort. Accurate. What about the common man? Can he accept that all his so-called decisions are made based on comfort and discomfort? No. How so? For example, common man has never asked himself why he wants the piece of chocolate cake after dinner. Instead of saying outright, because it gives me pleasure, he throws phrases like, I needed something sweet. I had a shit day. We all need sugar in our system sometimes, etc. Since he considers pleasure a sin, he tries to justify it. But the truth is that he is ruled by comfort and discomfort only. Has man chosen that his existence should be determined by comfort and discomfort? No. Has man chosen to come into this world by a will of his own? No. Has he chosen his birthplace? No. His gender, parents, or language? No. How about his culture and traditions? No. Let's examine it more closely. Does anyone choose which flavors are pleasant and which ones are disgusting? No. Or what smells good? No. What about who he falls in love with? No. What about who he hates? No. Has he chosen how to feel in different situations, with different people he interacts with? The answer is still no. How would a reader respond then? He wants to believe he can, but if he thinks about it, his answer will be no. So what you are saying is that decisions are made, but there are no choices and no one who chooses consciously. That's right. But if someone still wants to claim that there are such things as choice and free will, what do we reply? You let such people believe what they want because it's comfort and not truth that they are looking for. As we said before, whoever wants the truth must be able to receive it. If he can take it, you ask him this: is it your choice to have a choice? Then he will understand that the very idea of having a choice is not his decision. But if he claims that what is true for you may not be true for me, we'll tell him that we're not talking about your truth in particular. We're talking about how your truth became your truth. All truths come from the same source, so there is one truth that stands above them all. Likewise, there is a perspective that sees all perspectives. There is a knowing that understands the existence of knowing. He who understands the anatomy of belief knows all people, including himself. He's a seer. How should the common man act to remain a good citizen in the system? He must believe that his decision helps the system. How he votes, his choice of education, food he buys, etc., etc. But he shouldn't see the conditioning behind those decisions. No, because it would make him a bad citizen. For instance, he should believe that he has deliberately chosen to fly less, and not that it was the news that made the decision for him. So the common man is the news? Yes. But he wouldn't admit it. No, he denies it. Have you noticed how quickly these mediocre people say, I had no choice, as soon as things go wrong, or when they don't benefit from their decisions? So easily they give up their free will when faced with discomfort, yet they don't see the conditioning behind their so-called choices. It seems that the women on stage have been hypnotized by our conversation. They look more relaxed while reflecting on what's been said, almost forgetting the sense of danger. If the system was like an ordinary family, there are certain rules among the members that everyone should follow. If one of the members breaks the rules, he needs to start lying to avoid being caught. When the other members find out about this, they will do everything they can to get him to follow the rules again, often through some form of punishment. But if everyone in the family starts breaking the rules, they all have to lie, so dishonesty becomes their way of interacting with one another to accumulate power. Gradually, the use of the rules would only benefit the most powerful, as it is no longer about justice. Eventually, Everyone is forced to lie in order to remain in the system. Change is therefore impossible in such a system. It can only happen outside of it. A person can only change by being removed from the system permanently. That's why we kidnap these women. How else would they have listened to our conversations? Look at them now. More knowledgeable, wiser. Have you noticed that people only want to change under the condition of being able to go back to who they were? Yeah. True change is permanent. There's nothing left to go back to. Why wasn't Omar kidnapped? He's not the type who thinks, only takes orders. He, who would never listen but wait for the suffering to end, is, in short, an idiot. The closest it can get to change is through physical pain. The women on stage, not saying they are more intelligent than him, maybe pain awaits them too. The women shriek. Are you a liar? There was a woman who had 3 sons, all of whom were involved in gangs, where they murdered and ended up being murdered themselves. When asked, she would always say they were all good boys. They were to become doctors and scientists. It was not their fault that they had been misled. Unable to accept her failure as a parent, she blamed society. Man is such a lying creature. Even though the truth is right in front of him, he still tries to deny it. What should expose a liar? Discomfort. The sense of discomfort must be so strong so that he is ready to confront himself. When he looks in a mirror, he must see the liar in himself. With the same conviction a person with body dysmorphia experiences. And this makes him want to know what pushes him to lie? No, but it's the only way. He must allow himself to feel discomfort and not try to escape from it. Out of shame and fear comes the greatest sense of relief when overcome. If you intend to expose a liar, you cannot expect him to voluntarily raise his hand and confess straight away. You have to create a deception that it is someone else you're talking about, even though it is actually directed at him. You kneel in front of him, placing a hand on his knee, looking him in the eyes. You ask him this: what is the best way to reveal a liar? Who says? And then you mention all the lies he actually told himself. By doing so, you invite him to reveal himself by attacking another liar. While you wait for his answer, you see fear in his eyes appearing. Is he talking about me? He asks himself. Regardless of his answer, you squeeze his leg tightly and shout, "I see you! Don't lie to me, you bastard!" And then, you leave him without saying a word. Do you think the reader has an idea why you acted this way? Later, when the liar gets home and sees himself in a mirror, a thought strikes him. Fuck, he was talking about me. As he is the one saying it to himself, he can no longer deny that he is a liar. He will feel shame. Are you a liar? Someone named Karen apologized for defaming me, even though I knew that forgiveness is just a religious invention. I replied, I can forgive you for what you did to me, but what you do to yourself, how can I forgive that? The liar's sense of guilt is about not wanting to lose the image he holds of himself. Therefore, he feels compelled to apologize because it is ultimately about his own self-worth. The apology is a way to get rid of the guilt. Even if it is directed at the victim, it is not the victim's but his own comfort that he wants to regain with the act. What kind of impact does punishment have on a liar? Punishment is not a tool to make him see why he's lying in the first place. But still, it can prevent an individual from lying under some circumstances. How so? Namely, it is the fear that operates in the punished, which prevents him from lying, and not that he consciously understands the harmful effects of his lies. The policeman who is sentenced to prison for putting narcotics in the innocent's car does not actually regret his action. His only regret is that he got caught. If he considered slander or lying to be wrong, he would have refrained from doing it in the first place. So why would he want to change now? Because he's a scared chicken? Look at the women on stage. Wouldn't they be ready to say and do anything to escape punishment? So obvious. All they are right now is fear. When the fear subsides, will their intention be the same? No. Does punishment have the same effect on all other misdeeds as it does on lies? Yes. People don't change by being told. It just happens. A human cannot create change, only be hit by it. The kidnapped women were here for my experience only. I wanted to observe their reactions, as I knew they couldn't change. Their reactions are my experience. I create myself through them. Without experiences, we don't exist. Dear liar, have you changed? Sixth move. When Habit first met Change, he mistook him for being like himself. Therefore, he immediately started looking for similarities between them, but couldn't find any. This confused Habit. Yet he couldn't help but be drawn to Change, like a hiker is drawn to the warmth of a fire in a dark of night. Over time, this peculiar fascination made Habit start imitating everything about Change. But it was only an interest based on what he could achieve from Change, and not a way to understand Change, or become him. Eventually, the immense sense of freedom Habit felt when being around Change made him question his entire existence to the point where he wanted to change. Unfortunately, truth was that everything Habit experienced in the presence of Change was nothing more than his own projected ideas of what change was all about. He had never met Change. Change was a journey. Habit was an attempt of a journey. Change was vibrating. Habit was static. Change was time. Habit was a description of time. Change was the truth. Habit was an attempt of understanding the truth. Change was living. Habit was a theory. Change was everywhere and nowhere. Habit was in his box. Change was everything, while Habit was that part of Change that didn't see that Change was Habit too. The more time Habit spent with Change, the more inferior he felt. One day, it dawned on him that it was comfort, not change nor truth, that he was looking for. Reluctant, he walked away from Change. As he went back to join other Habits, he felt like an alien among them, almost as if he missed being around Change. Nevertheless, he still didn't want to change. He just wanted to feel special in the eyes of others. So he started wearing a shirt with the word change embroidered on it, and convinced himself and others that he too had changed. It didn't take long before he started to see all other Habits wearing shirts with the word change on. Now all Habits were advertising and lecturing on change. But who really changed? Everything is so simple, simpler than you have ever imagined. But the complex structures that have been placed around it prevent you from seeing the simplicity of it. To see everything, you have to allow yourself. Do you? Human is a self-moving pendulum, a constant alternation between will and resistance. Yes and no. That's the only battle. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? Think about it. What does the energy want? To vibrate freely, unrestrained. Yet man does everything he can to make life easier, more comfortable. But still, he is a slave under his own inventions. This causes his vibration to subside. In the static world of man's creation, you ask yourselves, why are we so miserable? Suddenly there was a change. The reader had become me and I had become the reader. Would he have any interest in making me understand him? Would he also begin to reflect on his beliefs, feelings, circumstances, and the order of the world? No. He would start engaging in projects that make him feel loved and successful, because he lives in the conviction that love, like everything else he knows, is a commodity, something that man finds, gives, and takes, but not an energy that vibrates dynamically within oneself, on and off. He also believes that success needs to be achieved in order to be happy. There is this notion of permanent happiness all the time. Does he wish to change the world? No. But if he desired to do so, just like any other human, he would like to move the clouds shadowing his happiness. So he would create a world based on his idea of comfort. The entire architecture would revolve around security. His idea of security. A world that is so protected, so safe, so equal and free. When this glorious world is complete, he must be incredibly satisfied. But after a while, he begins to feel that something is missing. Nothing really happens in this comfortable, secure, boring paradise of his. So he starts changing things. Whenever a desired change is made, the story repeats itself. So changing things becomes his new habit. But he never changes. He carries on living a life, creating habits on a larger scale. Then he dies and leaves a world behind him where new generations follow in his footsteps, repeating his habits. What does this story tell us? That people want power but don't know what to do with it. That they want magic but don't know how it works. Would the reader claim that mankind is a waste? Nah, not until he has changed. Can he change by you telling him he's a waste? If you tell him he's a waste, you're just giving him a braided truth without an experience. But if he would open the braid himself and see through it, he would understand why man, including himself, is a waste. Can common man understand that success and security lead to depression and suicide? Yes, he gets it, but doesn't know why it happens. With that in mind, would he still like to be successful? Oh yeah, because he rejects the idea that success would affect him in the same way. But if he gets there and is miserable, what would he say when reminded of his earlier claims? At this point, he wouldn't care. He is so disconnected. So, his will is, without knowing it, to destroy himself? Yes. Then it is correct to say, until you humans learn, it's too late. Something inside you likes what we tell you, while other parts resist when you feel discomfort. It makes you uncomfortably aware of things you may not have noticed until now. Isn't it so? Man is a constant struggle between change and habit, which creates deep exhaustion in him. Yes, change and habit. You think you can tell them apart? On several occasions I've mentioned that thought and breathing are connected. They are affected when resistance is felt. Have you started to figure out how it works? Did you ever notice that it is more difficult to breathe when things are going against you? It's almost like you're choking to death. It is the thought which is desperate to return to itself, as the memory's mutation is threatened in a case of resistance. Let me tell you, everything you know is recorded information, which comes from the world of ideas. You're just the latest update of that program. There's no other you than that program. All your ideas and thoughts about who you are, that you have a soul or a consciousness, etc., is that program talking. Everything you recognize is that program. Everything you smell, taste, and hear is that program. The senses don't tell you anything of what it is without the program being there. If you disagree, look at your hands, then look away, and close your eyes for a moment. You see the image of your hands inside your head? You can try to do this with the faces of strangers when passing by. When you begin to see it, we can move on. Memory protects that program continuously without knowing what the information consists of, nor does it evaluate what the information is about. It takes everything it gets, whether that information is pleasant or not. This happens automatically. You don't choose your memories, not even the thought which prompts you to look up an old memory of yours right now. If people ever reflected on how memory records its own playback, this is exactly what happens when you dream. Recording continues even in a relaxed state, like sleep, hypnosis, etc. Therefore, you can recollect and talk about your recorded dreams afterwards. So obvious that people do not reflect on how memory records itself. What do you want? To get clarity. You want clarity. All your thoughts are about clarity. Your I, which is an illusion, wants permanence. Do you know what your memory wants? To keep functioning without interruption. It mutates constantly without stopping. It doesn't want anything to stop it from spinning. The program consists of questions and answers invented by man. So you have no questions of your own, but you have been conditioned to ask questions as you think there must be an answer to everything. This activity is driven by a self-perpetuating mechanism where each answer raises a new question, indefinitely. So if you ask where the nearest gas station is and you get an answer, the memory doesn't stop there. It starts spinning again, asking questions what you should do when you get there, etc., etc. In the same way, when someone gives man a true answer, he can still ask why it is true and go on endlessly. You can question your own name if you want to, or your parents' existence, etc., because you cannot stop that movement of thought. Thoughts come two and two, as the current thought is always born out of the previous thought. So, everything you call you is the past. The past is listening right now by translating vibrations into words that also belong to the past. As soon as it recognizes certain words, the program starts telling itself that it understands. And when it doesn't, it rejects. But there is no listener there. Do you really understand what we are talking about here? Resistance is the turbulence, disturbing memory's way of trying to maintain itself. Change is the enemy of memory. Memory is habit. Dear reader, how can you wish for change? Your wish for change, is that your habit? In a human condition, the conflict between change and habit continues. If the activity of thought stops, you suffocate to death. because thought and breathing are connected. So nobody wants their questions to come to an end. When experiencing loss, death of a loved one, loss of a job, end of a relationship, or even losing a cell phone, you humans always say, "What am I to do? What am I doing now?" The memory is threatened and desperate to return to its recognition structure, where it continuously feeds on answers. Answers that make up your identity and worldview at large. What do you call change is something invented by man? Change. The word itself is already a habit, an answer. But real change can never be created. It just happens unexpectedly. It is something that you'll never know. You hate when real change takes place. Just a semblance of it makes you panic. Therefore, you create an artificial version of change by believing you have control over, based on an idea that says, "This is change," because it gives you comfort. All you do is replace one habit with another habit and call it change. You know you're dying, right? Of course you do. Would you like to change that? All knowledge has a foundation on which everything else stands. When questioned, everything could collapse, but the foundation will remain, as the first layer must be demolished by man himself. Those bricks are the most difficult to remove because they contain the beginning of your fate. Your religion, your God lives in those bricks. Fear holds you back from breaking them. But you are just a tape recorder. The recording of your fate lives in those bricks. You may say to yourself, "But I'm not a believer." This is not a question whether you believe or not. You may reject the idea of God, but you can't reject the recorded knowledge that has been inserted by others. And this is exactly what believing in God includes. The rest is only about what you want from this belief. Again, the knowledge you have of it is already there. It has become your memory, and your memory is protecting itself. If the most intelligent man ever to exist on Earth would appear among humans, what would they expect from him? To change things for them and lead them to eternal comfort? What if he said, "Man is a self-destructive parasite. No matter what he does, he has no power to prevent the worst from happening. He will wipe himself out." This exaggeration of security and comfort is his only and worst enemy. Would they even reflect on that statement? Wanting to know why he said that? Most certainly not. You humans want hope that gives you comfort, and not truth. You want shortcuts, where you think you can undergo changes through other people's experiences. You expect the same result. Therefore, you delegate problem-solving responsibilities to authorities, media, church, politicians, psychologists, experts, influencers, etc. You all want to be sure of the change before you change, but that security makes you want to keep comfort and never change. You want to know the outcome before you change, but that knowing itself is the one thing that never allows you to change. Just like moths drawn to all that shimmers but not tolerating the light, you want to understand change but never become it. Look at your university professors. They read a lot about atoms and Big Bang, etc., but the information doesn't change them, as they have never experienced an atom explode within them. Oh, if they only knew. You humans, all your interactions are about comparison. You try to incorporate the experiences of others into your own lives. What gives the common man the illusion that he is changing? Change of the scenery, such as traveling to new destinations, changing jobs, moving to new places, getting new diagnoses, making new friends, reading new books, meeting new people, watching new movies, getting new hairstyles, and buying new clothes, etc., etc. And worst of all, they bring new children into this world to pick up all these habits. But this kaleidoscope of activities doesn't change them as individuals. They're just acquiring new habits. And they all go to the same hell. You heard this. For God. Grew older. You died. Fear is still your drive. What's so marvelous about you? Is curiosity a vibration? Yes. So for someone to act upon something, he has to be curious. Yes. Can someone be less curious? Oh, yes. Does that make him less interested in exploring? Without a doubt, yes. It's like you reach a threshold, but you don't step over it. I must ask you this. Where does curiosity begin? To understand this, you must see how things are connected. And sometimes it is the most obvious that needs to be said, given all ignorance that exists in man. The lungs need oxygen to breathe, but the lungs are not the oxygen itself. Similarly, vibration needs knowledge to generate curiosity. Curiosity begins with a basic knowledge. From there, you just want to know more of what you already know. In this regard, a newborn baby can never be curious, regardless of what all stupid parents and psychologists say. It is not until a child has learned who God is that he can ask about the creator of God. In the same way, it is not until he has gained knowledge of what a doctor is that he can ask the question how he can become a doctor himself. Before the question can be asked, the knowledge must be there. It is from the answers that questions arise. Where does curiosity end? When this added knowledge becomes valuable to man, and he begins to appreciate the comfort that it brings, he becomes too afraid of losing it. So he creates a habit to contain that comforting knowledge. At this point, most of his energy is wasted on maintaining that habit. His security cannot be disrupted, so there's no room for imagination or creativity. But he expects tangible results, almost to the point that he denies that it is the imagination of an earlier thinker that laid a foundation for everything he uses in his everyday life. He doesn't want to waste time, as he wants to know the purpose before he acts. As the vibration becomes low, curiosity dies. What happens when curiosity dies? He can no longer think for himself. Since the vibration is low, he seeks out artificial replacements, such as drugs, religion, therapy, extreme sports, workaholism, etc. Further, security becomes his only obsession, as his life is all about control. He begins to seek out others who can provide him comfort. So he becomes a follower. Can time change people? Not as individuals, only as beings. But what happens in time can change them as individuals as well. If the kidnapped women were to spend years listening to our discussions, eventually they would start reflecting on all the things they've heard. And since that's their only reality, they would become these discussions as they're not exposed to anything else. So when released, do you think they would go back to their previous lifestyle and pick up their old habits? No. They would change and be grateful. Seventh move. By pure accident, a small particle was separated from its surroundings, floated calmly in midair, away from the mass, closer to himself. No longer part of them he once knew. Such indulgence he felt. Watching from a distance, he could observe the mass for the very first time in its entirety. A large, funny-looking lump in which a tornado of chaos raged, observing all sorts of things that man has left behind in the course of history. As he continued to drift away, the small particle made new discoveries and developed abilities beyond human reach. He could now see that the mass was in fact a diaper filled with shit, and everyone in it were extremely preoccupied with cleaning, not being aware that they were that shit. They blamed each other, but never themselves. They blamed the system because they believed it was something that existed outside of them. Since they had nothing else to replace it with, this was their only shared reality to rely on. Therefore, their biggest fear was that something would come and grab the stinky diaper and dump it in a waste container. Dishonest as they were, their only interest was marketing constructive solutions. But the solutions they offered were actually the problems themselves, because they made everyone believe that they had a problem that needed to be fixed. They gave advice in every field, promised success without realizing that they themselves were the downfall. Apart from politicians, priests, activists, fighters for democracy, human rights, feminism, equality, LGBTQ and MGTOW movement, etc., lots of other conmen try to get access to people's money. There you had Jordan Peterson, a suppressed psychologist, a coward who has not freed himself from Christianity and its oppressing philosophy, yet preached power and strength to people. Sadhguru and Eckhart Tolle, two spiritual liars, one of which has been promoted by an even bigger liar than himself. Oprah Winfrey. Deepak Chopra, who wrote plenty of books on Kundalini and made himself the judge of enlightenment, but is not enlightened, nor has awakened the Kundalini energy himself. Who else was there in this stinking pile of shit? Slavoj Žižek, a clown who's not a philosopher but a commentator on social affairs. He thinks he's creating the world by expressing his damn opinions on every damn thing. Such a comedian. Anthony Robbins, a self-help scammer. Dr. Gabor Mate, trauma expert, who is not ready to accept the fact that understanding trauma would not set you free. Truth is, that trauma does not exist. There's only will and resistance. Something you can never get rid of, more than creating different expressions for it. So people drink and use drugs because they can, because they want to, and they find all kinds of excuses to continue doing it. Sam Harris, an atheist scientist who has not yet understood that science is religion, as all human thinking is fundamentally religious. Isn't it high time to remind you, cowards, that life is dangerous and will end with death? Yet, this unbraided fact doesn't change man for the better. We are spinning on a thin crust with hot magma underneath, so nothing is safe. A reminder to this Astra Taylor before she spreads more nonsense about our notorious need for security. That being said, it is the artificially created abundance of security that is responsible for all the insecurity you humans feel. Security and insecurity are not opposites, but one and the same, because security and insecurity go together. When the idea of security is absent, insecurity isn't there either. So you have nothing to maintain, nothing to lose or relate to, and you deal with life only moment by moment. The same applies to hope. Through hope, you become hopeless as you hope for something to happen, something that does not exist at the moment. So hope separates you from where you are, and you begin to long for what you come in the future. This is why you fall for all these nonsensical statements like power of now, how to live in the present, and so on. Eckhart Tolle's power of now should be replaced with power of slap. Perhaps a slap is just what is needed to wake you all up from believing in such hocus pocus. And then there is help. Through the idea of help, you become helpless, as you expect to be taken care of by a guru, psychologist, priest, authority, etc. You think they hold a key to your non-existent problems. Remember, you're not important, and your life is only about dying. Also in the pile, there were plenty of pickup artists giving paid lessons on how to seduce people, joined by red flag experts telling you who to date or who to avoid. But these guys were missing the point of what experiences were all about. For instance, you can't give someone lessons on why he shouldn't date Swedish women. It wouldn't be fair to him. He has to date them in order to understand why they are shit. First comes the test, then comes the knowledge. The vivid experience is required in order to become a true teaching. While the particle continued to look at the people in the pile of shit and see them for what they are, wastes like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and Antonio Damasio, he realized where he was going and stopped at once. Just then, a voice called out to him. These are the people of decadence in the historical moment in which man finds himself. By giving these people attention, you make them important. You make them somebody. And they are nobody. Mentioning people like Andrew Tate, Pearl Davis, Will Smith, Beyonce, or Jay-Z will lower your level to theirs. Because they are shit. And if you step on shit, your shoes will stink like them. When the particle turned around, behind him stood the seer. Humans cannot be fixed, and their problems have always been there. Stay away from the shit. Do people want to hear lies? Yes, they prefer lies. Because lies bring comfort? Accurate. But if they were asked, their answer would be different. So what brings comfort must be true for them, right? Yes. But if they find out that comfort has to do with lies and not with truth, would they still want lies? Yeah. And it's because they still want comfort? Yeah. So let me ask you, does the reader want comfort? Of course. So the reader doesn't object to the fact that he wants lies. Nah, because the desire for comfort is too strong in him, so he looks for ways to deny it. What about an intelligent person? Does he consciously seek the truth? Or does it come to him by chance? It is the truth that led him to his intelligence. Because truth is change. He is a product of the change. So real intelligence cannot be sought? That's right, it cannot. So the one who lives for lies knows truth, intelligence, or change only has positively charged concepts? Precisely so. That's why you can trick such people with words and promises like, find yourself, let go of your ego, stop thinking, start living, boost your attractiveness, etc. Though it leads nowhere. Still sounds so appealing, doesn't it? Correct. If these tips, quotes, and books were to bring about change, they would eventually no longer be needed. So, as long as they don't deliver but create hope, people are willing to listen to almost anything because hope gives you comfort, and comfort makes you believe that you have been helped. This way, people remain followers, hoping that something will happen. But if the change they so desire were to happen, it would put an end to the whole game. So anticipation, which in itself is a comfort-seeking act, dies. They don't want that. So they'd rather stick to their repetitive attempts than face the end. Therefore, there are hopes, mantras, prayers, rituals, and so on. This is indeed true. Do people deserve the shit they get because they are shit themselves? Yes. The shit is their own creation because they're always looking for excuses. Anyone who wants to hear lies must become an ugly person. Sure, he must. What is the best thing that can happen to someone like Slavoj Žižek? To be humbled. And Jordan Peterson? To become brave. What about Toll? You really want to know? To die. I see. And for his followers, to be able to see him for the fraud he is. Which group is worse? People who lie or people who want to hear lies? People who want to hear lies because they are the ones who create people who lie. That's how followers created the leaders. Are you a follower? Who do you follow? Why are you following? How long will you follow? Are you a follower? Who do you follow? Why are you following? How long will you follow? Are you a follower? Who do you follow? Why are you following? How long will you follow? Are you a follower? Who do you follow? Why are you following? How long will you follow? 8th move. Dominus vobiscum ecum spiritu duo. Every question you ask is crucial to the outcome, just like every move in a game of chess. Is man intelligent? Or does he think he is intelligent? What if man is not intelligent and is in fact an incurable disease? A doomed animal, doomed to ignorance and longing. But of course, the reader doesn't think so. What is it that hurts the reader so much? To know that man is a disease. He's self-worth. So if it turns out to be true, that the human is indeed a disease, does he still choose his worth over truth? Always. But again, to him his worth is the truth. That's why he believes that truth is a matter of value, a matter of taste. My truth is mine and your truth is yours. A man is lying in his bed, eyes closed and ready to sleep, but his thoughts keep bombarding him. Same thoughts as yesterday. Where will I be in 20 years? Will AI take over my job? Will I meet the love of my life? Will the interest rate drop soon? Is nuclear war imminent? Why does my back hurt so much? What if I'm sick? All these thoughts are ultimately asking the same thing. What is going to happen? And they all want clarity through answers. Unable to stop these thoughts, he calls upon the divine for clarity. He starts praying. But does he want to know where this need to pray comes from? And what prayer does to his body? History repeats itself. Even this moment, he's still lying there, eyes closed and unable to sleep, with same tormenting thoughts. Where will I be in 20 years? Will AI take over my job? Will I meet the love of my life? Will the interest rate drop soon? Is nuclear war imminent? Why does my back hurt so much? What if I'm sick? All these thoughts want clarity to answers, because he feels separated from clarity. So he continues to pray, or opens Google and gets an excellent advice to pop a sleeping pill. Everything has already happened. Man only reminds himself. In every body I have a rule. In your body, I'm a follower. As such, I long for something far away, without wanting to know why. Perhaps you know. What if it became clear to me that this far away thing is in fact my separation talking, and I came to terms with the revelation that this divine God I pray to is just a thought? Unlike the common man, I would like to know the origin of this thought. If you go on a quest to find out where this idea comes from, you will also understand where man comes from, and perhaps you will also come to the conclusion that belief itself is pathological. Does common man feel small when he's in nature? Yes, because he experiences nature as something vast, existing outside of him. What does common man think if we were to tell him that he is separated from himself? That he must find his true calling in life, just like an administrator who dreams of becoming a writer. Okay, but not that he is disconnected from his senses. No, these are not his thoughts. And what about when he hears us say that he is separated from nature? He thinks of a distance he has to forest and greenery, as he lives in a concrete city. But he does not think of his own nature, his natural senses, because he has been taught that nature is everything that is green around him. How come the most intelligent man never thinks that there is something bigger than himself out there? Because he knows that he is the creator of the world, and the knowledge he has of it exists only in his head. The world and himself are not two separate things. Everything is a projection from his own creation. Whereas the common man cannot grasp this, as he lacks the ability to think beyond concepts. He takes everything literally. As we continue to unravel the braids of truth, we also see how these braids came to being. The sense of divinity has grown out of fear and taken many expressions. Man has lost himself in these expressions as they confuse and separate him further, instead of bringing clarity that he longs for. I'm going to mention 3 things. After hearing them all, let's see if we can put them together and see them as one and the same, just as notes join together to become chords. 1. As infants, humans, like other mammals, are given food and shelter by their parents. In this way, the human child is conditioned to seek upwards to reach its provider. From a crawling position, he treats everything above his head as something superior. As he experiences distance from that which stands higher than himself, he feels separated. As animals move on, man remains in this separated state, constantly yearning for comfort provided from above. 2. Man is one of the few animals that stands upright on 2 legs. Therefore, the energy in the glands of human body moves differently, up and down, like a yo-yo. Where the energy hits is vital. Below the navel, life is serious, and the higher it goes, the lighter it feels. Life becomes a joke. Those who practice yoga and meditation know what I'm talking about. Since the movement of this energy cannot be controlled, therefore, Man cannot put himself in a state he wishes to be in permanently. So he longs. 3. Human language has evolved from being signals to meaningful words. Man identifies himself with these words and has given them so much value, forgetting that he himself is the creator of them. Eventually, man began to believe the words more than his senses. Thus, language has become the means by which man tries to understand himself and what he calls reality. But this need to understand is, after all, a product of man's exalted language with which he continues to separate himself from life. In this way, man tries to reflect himself in everything. When these three behavioral as well as physiological aspects intertwined, a pathological condition under the name I has evolved. When energy in a body is directed towards a fixed point, that point becomes man's strongest memory to which he directs all his thoughts. Everything he knows and learns will be about his I. The need for confirmation awakens as man is driven by a constant desire to reflect himself in everything and confirm his self-image. His thoughts manifest as inner voice that is speaking to him. He wants and relentlessly seeks clarity through his inner voice. You see, this is the beginning of his schizophrenia, where he looks for truth outside of himself. Since the inner voice never provides desired clarity, a longing for a higher symbolic power manifests itself to confirm and clarify everything for the man, to suit him. But why does it never occur to him that the I is the separation itself? Man has invented himself through a collection of thoughts, yet remained oblivious as he became so intoxicated by his own work. When the energy vibrations stagnate in man, he can only express himself through habits, through repetition, and wish for permanence. Someone named Laura said, "I disagree when I mentioned that there is no such thing as knowledge more than what man has invented." Well, Laura's an idiot after all. Through self-consciousness, man experiences the world as an occurrence that is separated from him. This is how he differs from all other species on a planet. He believes he is more than just food. What you humans call thought is born every time man wants something. Unlike the animals, who still use their thinking mechanism only when it comes to survival and reproduction, man uses it all the time. And that is the colossal mistake that nature made. It is through separation that thought is born, which allows man to experience his existence. For that reason, humans experience more of their reality compared to animals, because thoughts create time, and all experiences exist through time. Something you ever thought about? Because I don't think you understand what I'm talking about here. The separation began with a thinking mechanism that gave meaning and significance to man. That's how his fragile identity was formed, as he began to feel important and wanted to protect it at all costs, because he believed he was created for a higher purpose. This seriousness towards life characterized everything he observed. Any natural force he perceived as destructive and frightening became a divine power. In hope of getting comfort, security, and insurance, humans started worshiping sun, sea, thunder, fire, etc., as thought recognizes these things as clarity, because thought wants clarity to maintain itself, maintaining the functioning of the memory. In that way, it was out of fear and hallucinations that man created God. And God is a symbol of the permanent and ultimate clarity. All metaphysics and religions are merely a byproduct of man's obsession with the divine. Religion and science believe that understanding is a conscious and meaningful task the man chooses to perform, as if existence was playing hide-and-seek with a human animal, making it man's main purpose to find out where this great creator is hiding, and what was his intention in creating this miserable mankind. Again, questions seeking answers. The obsession with truth, however, began when man distanced himself from his nature and deceived himself. Due to this separation, man is convinced that truth is a living phenomenon, existing outside of him. Successively, people have built a whole playground of terms and expressions, relentlessly inventing new words to define the reality and truth, etc. Yet, as a unanimous and satisfactory definition was never agreed upon, truth has been put under stricter scrutiny. The subject has always been an object of interpretation. Eventually, in this perpetual search, man has discovered that truth could be used as a powerful tool for acquiring and ruling over followers. Therefore, he had to set up rules for how it should be sought and who should have the privilege of advocating it. In addition to the fact that man's pattern life moves undeniably to truth or comfort, there are three types of mindsets that govern all human interactions on all levels: creator mindset, leader mindset, and follower mindset. The intricate dynamics between these three create the value system by which the entire world is governed. Creators create for their own satisfaction. The other group of people who lay the foundation for all the ideas and inventions that shape the world. Things that ordinary people take for granted. The leaders have a different agenda. They use creators and their ideas to achieve something else. Followers follow blindly. Leaders and creators belong to the minority, whereas followers constitute the majority. Are you listening? Or do I have to keep talking to myself? Leaders make use of everything the creators generate to construct power and ultimately rule over followers. Occasionally, they corrupt creators to manipulate the truth as well. Unlike followers, who find meaning in belonging, leaders see meaning in controlling people. But both leaders and followers have one thing in common: they seek comfort and not truth. In fact, the leaders abhor the truth as much as being truthful. For them, truth is only a paragraph that favors their rights. The follower mentality is not a personality trait. It is pathological. Their lack of imagination makes them dependent on factual information. They don't set rules or create systems. Followers are the workers in a tribe who are strongly connected to meaning and morality as they identify with everything they believe in. Religion, science, ideologies, politics, art, football teams, etc., etc. Their most distinctive characteristic is the need to be told what to do all the time. But who would admit to being a follower? Would the listener do that? You see, when a question is asked within the timeline is crucial. If asked at the first move, he would deny it outright. But now, on the 8th, he's on the verge of surrendering. If someone says, there is no such thing as truth, well, is the statement he makes not in itself a truth? Then he understands the stupidity of such a claim right away. Can truth be denied? No, you can only suppress it. For man, truth itself is irrelevant, since it is comfort and discomfort that determines its value. If truth brings you comfort, you'll buy it. If it brings discomfort, you reject it. Correct. Do creators, leaders, and followers have the same relationship to truth? Yeah. They're still driven by comfort and discomfort. And this is pathological and not self-chosen. Accurate. What determines whether they seek truth or lies? For the creator, truth is associated with comfort, Therefore, it is his want. Whereas for the follower, truth is associated with discomfort, which creates resistance. Therefore, he wants lies. By believing, followers get further from the truth. Mindlessly driven by a sense of absence, they become easier prey for the leaders to exploit. These folks don't want to be reminded that everything they believe in is a lie. Perhaps the reader has noticed how easily offended they are. What about the leaders then? The leaders also want to lie, but in a different way. Lies for them are an instrument to produce beliefs. Speaking of people who believe, why can truth be transmitted intellectually? Imagine a child growing up with a caring, attentive, and loving father. A man who has always been there and supported the child through all the setbacks in life. An idol, an entire world. One day, a stranger appears and claims to be the real father. With teary eyes, he tells an incredibly touching story about how his child has been taken from him by the same man whom the child calls father today. How do you think the child will react? Would he believe him instantly and run into his arms? Or would he become furious, slap him in the face, and turn his back on him? You see, when the truth emerges, it puts you on a crossroads. On one side there is will, and on the other, there is resistance. If the child wants comfort, he will suppress the truth, stay with the kidnapper, and reject his real father. But if he wants the truth, he will face discomfort and not resist change. But he doesn't choose what to feel or want from the situation, and that applies to all events in life. Insofar as no one can choose the truth, everything happens by chance. Mechanically. Very much so. Man would embrace any religion as long as it affects the separation that has made him feel small, lonely, and lost. Through his insignificance, man constantly seeks greatness, and through his longing for completeness, he always wants to be close to the divine, to the ultimate source of all being. Everything becomes meaningful to him as it comes from a divine source. Birth, talent, intelligence, love, partnership, etc. all considered divine gifts. But through this separation, man never considers himself as divine, only a plain receiver of the divine generosity. All lies derive from truths that man has distorted. Since man was separated from his nature and regarded the truth as something divine, the leaders were able to exploit that delusion to their advantage. That's how belief became a system. Who can look at all events that occurred during the course of history and see what really happened? A seer. Because he sees the anatomy of belief and the entire construction of religion. Something that cannot be explained by a theologian who draws his knowledge from history books, as history is written by winners. But does common man know that such an ability exists, to see everything through time and space, without tools like microscopes and telescopes, things that make one seek the truth outside oneself? No. Without an ability beyond human capacity, people enslave themselves to the illusion called human and turn the search for truth into a competition. Who knows the most? Who's the smartest and has the most credible theory? By and large, obedience has been the most dominant trait in followers. So what was the intention of creating religion as a system? When human will knows no bounds and moves towards becoming unstoppable, aiming to achieve a dangerous power that can destroy the entire world, then it must be handled. A fear of divine retribution may help to contain that power and maintain the order in a society. So has man, through religion, tried to set a limit to the selfishness of leaders and the amount of power they can wield? Maybe. Come closer and see for yourself. Assume that we have a city where every inhabitant is predetermined to have a certain role in a hierarchy, just like pieces in a chess game. Our emperors shall rule, our guards must defend the order, and our followers must obey the authority. Not out of fear, but with a conviction that they are doing the right thing. Emperors must be regarded as objects of reverence. Suppose the guards begin to abuse their power for personal ambitions, forgetting that their purpose is to defend the order. They start raping, killing, and stealing from people in the lower ranks. And as long as no one in a position of authority is affected by their misdeeds, the abuse of power continues. And this goes on until discontent begins to rise among the inhabitants. Their obedience is no longer out of reverence, but out of fear. So they become disobedient followers. This leads them to want to overthrow the government. Now suppose we find out that there is another conflict going on outside of our society, where a group of people want one of their members crucified. A man who claims to be the Son of God. Remember, the clue here is that people in both societies want to see God in man, and this because of the separation they experience from their own nature. And the man in question has by now gained a lot of followers. If we were the imperial family, what would be the best thing to do to restore guardians in their intended role and calm down the followers? Let's take a look. Can we agree that the man who claims to be Son of God poses no threat to us, so crucifying him serves no purpose? Absolutely. And if his message leads to good results, we want to keep it. And if we wanted his message to suit our needs better, what should we do? Then you have to try to negotiate with him. If he doesn't allow himself to be corrupted, then you get rid of him. That's right. Suppose that would be the case, and getting rid of the messenger is our only option. How could we twist and use his teachings for our benefit? You tell me. Then you have to recreate him as a fictional character and use a little bit of magic. You have to stage a theater. So, we pick a prisoner already in our custody who closely resembles the man in question while the real messenger is being held hostage. Then we amplify the mood around the punishment and present the prisoner as the man who claims to be the Son of God. I'm with you. And what about the real subject? He will be forced to negotiate. And where should his followers stand in this? Fearing the consequences, none of them will be present during the crucifixion. Hence, it raises no suspicions that the real messenger has been replaced. Furthermore, we stage the entire resurrection. The body must disappear. Our guardians must be convinced that they made a great mistake in crucifying the Son of God. This applies to all participants, and they must all consider themselves sinners. Meanwhile, the followers of the messenger get to see their master before he departs. The point is to strengthen the conviction of his resurrection and his divinity. Now the messenger and his teachings are serving the needs of the system, all written down and ready for distribution. What should the new Holy Scripture contain? By taking elements from Judaism, paganism, Stoicism, and teachings from the man in question, we can create a new divinity, the strongest religion the world has ever seen. A power structure where only one has the privilege of interpreting that which has been placed above people's heads. The kingdom of the heart is to be replaced by the kingdom of heaven. and only one person is allowed to preach metaphysics, deliver messages from God. Even the most powerful leaders have to kneel before him. That person is the Pope. What impact should this new religion have on our followers? Their thinking must be divided into good and evil to establish a quest for ultimate goodness and eternal reward in the afterlife. They must suppress all sensations that are considered evil and leave room only for all that is good. Their want to achieve goodness must only exist as an attempt, but never be completed. Because it is through the judgment day the divine power will confirm whether their attempt at goodness was sufficient. When facing adversity, they should make a virtue out of their suffering and believe that they are being tested by God. Most importantly, the message must evoke a sense of guilt when they want to give in to their desires. In fact, all their desires must be associated with sin. Having said that, it should make the strong weaker than the weakest. And the one who has been hurt must have the greatest need for religion. This moral lifestyle should make them believe that they are good and important. But they should all have one thing in common, and that is not being able to think for themselves. Wow, what a brilliant idea! How should our religion work in different cities then? In poor cities, religion should be more intolerant, while in places where trade works well, religion must be tolerant. Therefore, the message will vary in different places, and new branches of our religion would evolve, dividing people and creating devastating conflicts between them that will further strengthen the religion and create more followers. How would a believer react when told the truth about the origin of his belief? His first experience will be resistance, but if he allows himself to contemplate the matter, he will soon face the same crossroads as the child deprived of the truth about his real father. Modern man's relationship to religion is like a mezzanine floor in an old building, where man rejected parts of his belief, but still stands and looks over from a balcony, hoping to find the missing components. Most people do not believe what's written in the scriptures. The only reason they follow it is because they identify with it. Most of them has not even read those holy books, but they worship them as symbols of their religion. These symbols have become their identity, their recording, and memory is protecting that recording, mechanically. Since brain cannot distinguish between believing and knowing, it treats both as information and needs safeguarding, because both are memory. This is why strong reactions occur every time you burn a Quran or Bible. In fact, these angry followers are just protecting their own identity and not their religion. They are protecting their own breathing. They would equally defend anything else they identify with. A flag, football jersey, or their favorite pop star. So whoever brainwashed one first is the winner? Precisely so. Everyone is religious because everyone believes in something greater outside of them. This could be expressed in any way you like. Some go to temples, mosques, or churches, while others dance around fire, ring bells, and light incense sticks, believing in a higher energy. Regardless of what they do, they perceive themselves as inferior and remain followers in one way or another. You're all religious without knowing it. If the asteroid Oweis were to change direction and move towards Earth, you would all start praying. Let me remind you, there is creation and destruction in nature, two interchanging forces driven by themselves. In this way, everything recycles, because everything is food. Even you. Nature has no need for your cultures and values, as little as for your gods. In every body I have a role. In your body, I am a follower. What it takes you to read a person, I see all of humanity in a single gesture. In the braids of a young girl, I saw the whole of existence and where it comes from. But you don't see it. Not even if your own life were played in slow motion before your eyes. You're too analytical, too logical, too religious and scientific to see things as they are. You're driven by reason and moral. The effect of my words is ephemeral and cannot ignite a vibration in you. To learn, the demolishing force that loss brings is needed. Your entire belief system must be shattered. You have to rebuild yourself from scratch. Understanding what I've just said doesn't do it for you either. You remain unfazed. Since the intellectual way of knowing the truth makes you more of an idiot, it is best not to understand at all. I disagree. That's the phrase of the common man, and we've heard it way too many times. Have you seen how stupid people look when they throw around that phrase? It's a lack arguments. It's quite obvious that they haven't gotten the point. The fear of appearing stupid prompts them to reject everything as fast as they can, ironically, revealing their stupidity. I speak here. Why do you keep listening? Are you following me and expecting something? I have nothing to give. What led you here will lead you elsewhere. Go to Eckhart Tolle. He promises you all sorts of things and is happy to take your money. So turn off this audio file and fuck off. Oh, you're still here. How do you know I'm here? Because you're listening, aren't you? You are listening to a recording from the past right now. As you translate vibrations of the past into words, you create the present. So the past is the present, as the past is listening to me. So, you've resigned and you want to continue playing. Ninth move. Don't understand. Listen as if everything were just music. Human is dead. The world is talk. What are you left with? Words, information. You are constructed of information. Does this have any impact on you? Of course not. Before long, you'll have forgotten this too. Like you're a scopolamine. And that's what your whole life is about. Read and forget, read and forget, read and forget, read and forget. Soon, you'll die and be forgotten too. You see, you're just replacing information with information. And you call this intelligence? But I want to know. You already know a lot. But knowing doesn't change you. Addictive as it is, it only makes you want to know more. More of the same. More doesn't change you either. The will does. And the will is not yours to control. By knowing this too, nothing happens. Your will remains the same. Because no answer can change you as all words are dead constructions from the past. I want to remind you, reader, that you are dishonest. But that you already know. And it doesn't make you any less dishonest. Your dishonesty makes you want repetition. You repeat because you can never be satisfied. Like your God, who is never satisfied no matter how many times you pray to him. And he, who can never be satisfied, will continue seeking satisfaction, destroying everything on his way. He wants more and more. Therefore, he is a waste. As a waste, He must die. Have you ever repeated a word multiple times until it lost its meaning and became just a sound? Perhaps as a child. Say your own name out loud to yourself for about 30 times. Make it quick. You'll be left with a peculiar feeling. Do you know why? It is because you're bending its logical construction and paying attention to the vibration alone. So you get a glimpse of what it's like to contemplate beyond concepts, and the ability to see expresses itself in a brief moment. Now imagine what it would be like if all your thoughts were stripped of concepts. Don't try. What you're imagining right now, it's not even close. Yes, no, comfort, discomfort, will, resistance, change, habit, truth, lies, braided, unbraided. Doesn't matter. I can't imagine that you will be true to yourself anywhere but in your dreams. Because when you dream, you allow the forbidden to resurface along with everything you have suppressed. There's no filter, no moral. You open up. As you fall asleep, you begin to dream. You see things as they are. You unbraid. Things you keep apart when you're awake, you see as connected. Time experience is simultaneously present and absent. Action performed can still remain undone, and the same event is repeated over and over again. Crazy, you exclaim. And yet, everything you experience feels somewhat more real when you dream. But why is that? Think about it. All your dreams are about pleasure and discomfort. Have you noticed? A lovely flower you are holding suddenly becomes a snake that you loathingly throw into the grass, out of which a woman emerges and then takes the shape of a man. Your feelings about all these images change similarly. In a split of a second, that which disgusts you can become arousing. A person you hate turns to one you love dearly. Even your own voice changes appearances. You can sound like anybody, a villain in a movie or an opera star. Why all this? You are creation and destruction as one, at once. Something your logical thinking fights against to keep your world divided, limited. Why do dreams occur? To stop the dreaming itself, by turning that which says no into a yes, and yes into no. Your body tries to rid itself of everything that has been repressed within you. This is the only battle that takes place in you. Don't understand, but listen. The beauty of dreaming is that you don't have to understand anything, because now truth and comfort has amalgamated into one. It's like you're walking in a tunnel, but still, you're everywhere. Which is not the case in your logical structure, as your knowing separates things to keep your world organized in boxes. But when you dream, you're most true to yourself. Not what you dream about, but the permission you give for those things to appear in your dreams. Everything you don't want or dare touch, you allow when you dream. Everything you say you aren't, you become when you dream. Do you fantasize? When was the last time you fantasized? And what was it about? Oh, I like your fantasy. But is it really yours? Most people do not fantasize. Sadly, they lost that ability when they grew up and became the system. And because of this, they think they are more realistic and down to earth, almost too down. They have forgotten that it is through fantasies that everything they value came into being. And now, if they do fantasize, someone else is telling them what to fantasize about. Most likely it would be about sex, because sex is pleasure, and pleasure always says yes. common man thinks that hatred is just a strong word because it carries a strong emotion, a forbidden emotion, as he doesn't see that it is the beginning of a transformative, creative process that aims for perfection, where the will is faced with accepting its adversary in order to break the separation it maintains to it. In other words, through hatred, you face change. Unlike resistance, hatred causes attack, because it is the power that destroys to create anew, as it is the path to devotion. If you fail to change your enemy, he must face desolation for the separation to end. Every time I close my eyes, I see a pile of severed heads of every Swedish person I ever known, men and women, old and young. First I get scared, then a little sad. But after I overcome those feelings, I'm left with a sense of relief. Oh, am I malicious? I'm malicious when necessary. We hate whoever wants to change us, especially when it comes to changing for the worse. What a beautiful world. Your body stands up and begins to walk without you being there. You notice and observe your feet taking steps along the hall. A black mirror is hanging on the left side of the wall. At a mirror stop and catch sight of your naked body in it. You watch yourself countless times before, but see nothing. The mirror shows nothing but the truth. What do you see now? Your eyes have changed. The blinking activity has stopped because nobody's there. All your senses have been sharpened, as thought is no longer the master of the body. The body turns around and continues walking with a sense of lightness, almost as if gravity held no power over you. In the end of the hall, there is a large window. When you open it, you're hit by a wave of noise. Suddenly, someone grabs you by the arm and starts pulling you out the window. The other arm reaches for the window frame. Allahu Akbar! A jihad fi sabilillah! Come and join us. Let's kill hundreds of infidels. You will be rewarded. 72 virgins are waiting for you in heaven. Someone else starts pulling you in another direction, more aggressively this time. Let's crush the patriarchy and create a just society. No, join us and become love. Awaken your higher spiritual self and feel the cosmic energy within you. More and more people started reaching for your arm as everybody wanted to make you like themselves. Come and join the academia. The truth is in books. No, you should join politics. Go to war and defend your nation. Lock your penis in a chastity cage and devote your life to serving superior women. Let me help you. You seem to be suffering from Oweis syndrome. Let me diagnose you. You are alone. You just need someone to love. Hand him to me. I'm a clairvoyant, and I know how to heal people. Ignore them all. Why don't you just live by these simple principles? Listen to your parents. Go to school, educate, get a job, become a parent, become a grandparent. Die. They all wanted to change you, as they all preached love. But what they offered wasn't free. If you were to give them all your money, they would leave you alone. Dear reader, what can you offer him? None of them could see where their ideas and ideologies came from. None of them could see their own programming, that it was their own wishes they wanted to impose on you. All of a sudden you felt you had enough. You shook them all off, pulled your arm back and closed the window. You notice that the hall and everything in it has disappeared. What you're left with is emptiness, along with the sound of your breath in silence and the pumping of blood in your veins. As you turn around, you see all the people out there, frustrated, desperate, lost. Should you choose to remain in the world, you will go on as a believer, filled with hope and longing, you would have to accept that there is only one God, and that is Allah, and one devil to blame for all evil. Or there's only one system to be crushed, and that is patriarchy, where the male gender is responsible for all misfortune. Or there's only one way to achieve change, and that is by voting for a political party. Or there's only one way to end all suffering, by following the path of Buddha and attaining enlightenment and nirvana. That way, you break the cycle of rebirth. Dear reader, you're about to hear something. Listen carefully and try to identify what it is you feel, comfort or discomfort. Also try to locate where in the body these feelings appear. Remember, don't understand. Listen and let it remain as music. There is no you, no soul, no spirit, no mind, no psyche, no choice, no free will, no non-free will, no God, no gods, no devil, no sin, no beginning, no end, no afterlife, no paradise, no hell, no time travel, no moksha, no nirvana, no other dimensions, no science, no belonging, no oneness, no enlightenment, no healing, no diagnosis, no success, no happiness, no freedom, no justice, no democracy, no equality, no meaning, no love. Listen. No love. How does it feel? Do you feel relieved? Or do you feel like you want these things to exist? Most of them. Why? Because I can't imagine life without them, you say to yourself. Do you call these things life? Yes? Then you don't know your senses. And above all, you know nothing about this sick animal called human. I get the point, you reply. But I don't want to get rid of my brainwash. Through it, I feel important. So there is no shame in you either for becoming a cheap copy of someone else. No, I admit, I am the common man. Just as the reader responded that way, he died. Instantly, he was finished. Now it's only you and me here. Do you resign or do you want to continue playing? As the vibration increases in you, your fate begins to die out, to disappear. When a fear within you subsides, you begin to see that it is not the lack of God that has created the feeling of emptiness. It was the fate itself. God is the separation that people try to reconcile with fate. Now you see that man and knowledge are not two separate things. Most likely, he will disagree with you on this. But that is just his separation talking. Man's relationship to this idea called God is also split. He regards himself as number one, and his God is number two. The moment man wants something, God is subtly upgraded to number one. The prayer does not fulfill his relationship with this illusion, but strengthens the longing for it. For God is longing. You begin to see that the only quality that nature bestowed upon all of you is death. To nature, you're all insignificant and dying creatures. And through death, nature is already carrying out its jihad. So you don't really achieve anything of significance by killing someone a few years earlier. Nature has no use for your sacrifices, your cultures, your politics, your religions and economies. It will use all your bodies to balance the energy elsewhere. You see that there is nothing to achieve, nothing to become, nothing to change, nowhere to go. You're all going to die. And what's wrong with dying? Then You become even more intelligent and begin to see that every human being has been right until today, acting only based on their programming, which their memory is defending mechanically. And now, you're no longer human but an energy that is connected to all these human bodies. You see how they have been hijacked and imprisoned by the world of ideas. You are the very existence that talks about itself. I am you, listening to myself. Don't understand. Just listen. In terms of human understanding, you understand what they want you to understand. Just like what you want is what they want you to want. You see what they want you to see. You are what they want you to be. Close your eyes and picture yourself murdering a scientist or a professor. Besides feeling wonderful, see why you are doing this. Let the idea sink in. See why they must die, why all their labs must be destroyed. Further, see what they are about to do to mankind and all the living things if not interrupted. Do you think they can be changed by words and pedagogical explanations? Or do you see that they are not interested in anything other than maintaining their false status? And now stop. Imagine being one of billions who believe that scientists are here to make the world a better place. They read books and they know everything. Killing them would be wrong. Let the idea sink in. He who does not see the mechanisms of his reactions does not understand his reactions either. At best, he is blind. At worst, he is a psychologist. What if truth is the opposite of everything you learned? Psychology is not a tool, but an obstacle to understanding oneself. Everyone must come to this realization and free themselves from the playhouse of psychology. Psychologists are the modern priests who have succeeded in deluding themselves into being the saviors of mankind. But they are all lost. The morality they unconsciously defend is religious. They want man to be religious, as they unconsciously want man to be weak and dependent on him. Through a diagnosis, they create hope of freeing you from that diagnosis. But there is only one diagnosis, and that is the belief in the diagnosis itself. Or worse, the belief in psychology. Psychology resonates most with a group of people who have the strongest attachment to their I. The business of psychology is dependent on this I. Therefore, psychologists urge the individual to chase his self-worth and the value system. The meeting with a psychologist strengthens the illusion of being important. To both the client and the psychologist, they create each other in that moment. To everyone who thinks they're struggling right now, ask yourself, if it is actually the sense of importance that causes your struggle, your paranoia, depression, anxiety, don't you feel important in all these conditions? Now, the question is, do you want to be true to yourself or feel important? Your intelligent body has no need for your I, your worth. If you realize this, it will be clear to you that all the problems you have been struggling with to this day are only neurological and not psychological. But still, you don't change until the body gets rid of you and starts dealing with these problems in its own natural way. Actually, you are the problem, so you must go. Every time your body has come close to throw you out, the feeling of fear has been so intense that you've returned to this I. You name this experience anxiety. Through anxiety, you remain as an I. So it is not in your interest to free yourself from that sensation. So you are dealing with how to be free from anxiety, but not anxiety. The same applies to all sensations, and everything is again a struggle between will and resistance, yes and no. Man can understand the relationship between yes and no only through his body and not through his thoughts. What you call stress is nothing but two conflicting wills. One will wants, and the other refuses. If you press down the accelerator and the brake pedals at the same time, you'll create friction. In your body, friction occurs in the nerve fibers of the solar plexus area when you want something and refuse it at the same time. Telling you all this doesn't take the stress away, and understanding that stress has nothing to do with the amount of information you're exposed to doesn't make it disappear. What if truth is the opposite of everything you've learned? Will you do the opposite then? So, by wanting stress, stress goes away. For good. Same goes for anxiety, panic attacks, and other uncomfortable sensations. Why? Because wanting to be free from discomfort is the discomfort itself. Have you ever looked at it this way? Of course not. You may not agree because you have read so many shit books written by professors using complex words to increase their credibility in the eyes of those who do not master these stupid terms. But you'll learn if you're honest with yourself. Do one thing for me. Touch your own body. Any way you like. Look carefully. Are you the one touching the body or the body touching itself? Are you involved in the process? You're not your hand, so who is it touching? You see, you're just a thought, and you don't exist in a way you think you exist in this physical illusion called life. You can try touching any object. Your relationship to everything around you expresses the same way. There are only two types of knowledge. One is invented by man and the other is given to him. The learned knowledge numbs the function of the senses. This leads to serious diseases. By sensing the vibrations in the ground, the snake knows 30 days before the earthquake occurs. Can you sense that? You could a long time ago. And now you can't even smell or taste. Just check the expiration date on the packages. Human knowledge that has developed over a short space of time has only had the purpose of attacking and altering nature, artificially, and it has resulted in what you call the system. Again, to understand the truth, you have to understand what it comes from and how you have been conditioned to see it. Can you do that? Man's relationship to his reality and what he calls knowledge is similar to when a demented person is painting and suddenly stops to look for the producer behind the work. Or even worse, asking when a work is finished. It's finished when you're done. Man has to overcome the delusion that there is something behind this self-invented reality in which he seeks to find the truth. The inventor of these questions, answers, and instruments with which he establishes the truth is himself after all. Yet he remains standing with a brush in his hand asking the same question. For ages, your philosophers have tried to distinguish between the objective and the subjective, the world within us and the world in itself. And this childishness continues even today as they have been conditioned to only look at one side of the truth. That's how the paradox came about that the academia confirms to. And it remains to be discovered that there is an unconscious drive within every philosopher that cannot help but separate things. Unfortunately, they lack spine to ask why their thoughts appear the way they do, which is the only task left for the philosophy of the future to undertake. Perhaps one day they will have the courage to take their observation a step further and look at their brushes with which they have colored the world. Wouldn't it be very comical if clouds had more to teach you about yourself and how everything is connected than all the philosophers and their writings put together? Suppose we gathered all these disagreeing philosophers, asked them to lie down and just observe the clouds. As the clouds pass, they begin to see different figures. Perhaps they see a cat chasing a mouse, and when it's about to swallow the mouse, the shapes change. They start seeing a face of a man with a big nose, which then takes another shape, and then another shape, and another shape. Perhaps it is now they begin to see that all figures are created by themselves, as everything is a projection from their own creation. And it's exactly the same way they treat their dreams, emotions, other people, thoughts, animals, planets, etc. Everything is a projection from your own creation. You want people to see you for who you are? Tenth move. What's the best way to control someone in a system? By conviction? By fear? Or both? Both. For fear to lead to obedience, one must have knowledge of the punishment in order to avoid sinning. Today it's called responsibility and consequence. To take responsibility, you must have knowledge of the consequence. So you control someone by making him feel convinced, involved, and responsible. What's the strongest conviction in man? Freedom. If you isolate a group of people by force, they would perceive it as imprisonment. But if you create conditions for them to isolate themselves from each other, they become convinced that it is a self-chosen act. They will feel free. What else can strengthen a conviction? Unity, like-minded people. And those who cannot be convinced, how do you control them? By putting their basic needs in the hands of the system. Followers are called consumers today. They contribute nothing. The system only keeps them for their consuming power. All human needs are created by the system. Although the people must believe that these needs are their own and that they themselves have the freedom to satisfy them. Ways to satisfy these needs are also created by the system. What's the best way to maintain power as a system creator? To make it invisible. By creating a class system and letting people rule over each other. Problem solving is the most important task in a value system. It puts everyone to work. But actually it's not about solving problems, but keeping problem solving alive. Because it is the repetition of work in all areas that maintains the value system. Everything must be kept in repetition. In the field of medicine, it's about creating illnesses that the individual can live with for a longer period of time and make him dependent on a vast number of products and services. Therefore, cures for diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and HIV are not productive for the system. In academic philosophy, it's about keeping students away from the truth. A definitive answer is never to be found, but more questions, theories, and ideologies are created to keep looking for it. People cannot accept that they are programmed beings. They want to believe that they are the creators of their identities. That includes you, reader. I say it again. Humans don't want to accept that they are programmed beings. They want to believe that they are the creators of their identities. That includes you. All they are is conviction. Are you anything more than conviction? Human is dead. Even this remains to be discovered. When was the last time you discovered something by yourself? As the man of the system, the sole purpose of your existence is to work and then die. Your task is not to discover anything outside the system. Your different type of man engages in such things as he has reached a power that stands above the system. He is not you. If you are smarter than the system, you wouldn't have listened to me with such admiration. So what's the problem with being used by the system? What about the one who considers himself skeptical and questions everything? The suspicion itself is a conviction. The skeptic, through his suspicions, feels alert and smart. In fact, the more suspicious he is, the smarter he feels. The system wants you that way. Smart, convinced. To some extent, suspicion makes a person knowledgeable. Like when a hypochondriac can go so far as to know his illness better than a doctor. With strong conviction, he can produce the symptoms, maybe so that he even succeeds in taking his own life. After all, it is through the information itself and not for the lack of it that he was convinced. You people got so proud when you started calling yourselves skeptics. Your modern doctrine of suspicion has caused your immune system to turn against everything, even the truth itself. No doubt, a consequence of that antibiotic. No matter how much you try to suppress the truth, it's always there, the only paramount. In a system, truth is called facts. Facts make common man appear intelligent, because the intelligence invented by man serves the system. Here, success and wealth are measures of intelligence, regardless if you can spell your name or not. Your true intelligence is only about finding food and not becoming food yourself. To see through lies and not be deceived, to read the enemy. And you have given away that ability to the system in exchange for comfort. Here you are, considered intelligent by being an efficient suck up to other people's information and doing well on different intelligence tests. Poor you. It remains to say that this trust of intelligence tests created by the system is in itself a good sign of a higher intelligence. In the end, all bodies are food. Don't understand. Listen as if it were only music. The system benefits from increased suspicions among people, not against the system itself, but against each other. Ironically, suspicious people are more susceptible to control and manipulation. Religions and ideologies have the best function in that respect. Consumed by suspicion, people never unite to overthrow the system and take laws into their own hands. On the contrary, conflicts frequently emerge between them, and are extremely beneficial to the entire value system and economic machinery. Yet no one suspects the foundation of the system, only its ability to deliver something for them. The existence of politics has never been questioned, only what it stands for. People may believe that democracy has flaws and put a lot of effort to correct them, but never do they think that democracy or politics is just an illusion, a theater to keep the citizens away from meddling in the affairs of the state. But what about the election system? Our votes matter, you say? Voting systems are just a way to make the residents feel involved in the decisions that are made, a surveillance tool to control people's devotion to the state. Your votes are not included in any decisions, but it must still be counted and reported so that the politicians who are new to the game will gain confidence, although they are puppets themselves. Any politician who starts stepping out of his role and chases the truth must be executed. Don't understand. Listen, as if it were only music. Don't understand. Listen, as if it were only music. 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 As if When talking about freedom, people put everything in the same pot, but they think they must leave everything behind to start over somewhere else. But this longing is their repression talking, their sickness that whispers every now and again, as if you can become free from everything at once. People are getting dumber and dumber. Are you getting smarter? You believe in right values and stand for the right things. So many things. Freedom, justice, equality. But they are all the same. Comfort. They all give you the same thing. Comfort. Have you noticed that your obsession with freedom and equality grows with the amount of exposure to those illusions? As usual, you want more of the same. Do you find comfort in identifying with those ideas? Or is it that you actually believe in them? I believe in them, you answer. But you never get to see the completion of them. Do you know for sure that they will lead to something good when fully executed? No, you answer. Then they're just imaginings from where you are now. You envision yourself standing for the right things because it's all about comfort. Your comfort. If freeing oneself from wanting to be free brought comfort, would you want that? As a child, you knew nothing about freedom. Were you free then? Man is condemned to a persistent hunger that feeds on satisfaction, but is unable to satisfy the will itself. He must either give in to all his wishes or put an end to all wishing by committing suicide. So freedom is not a condition one preserves, but a process of trying to eradicate one's will. Religion created the idea of freedom, but, ironically, as a naysayer, it also repressed all your yeses. This is why you see freedom and truth in pleasure. This is why you ferociously seek pleasure. What is it that you want to be free from? You may realize that freedom does not exist, but there is only a will to break free from certain things, mostly unpleasant things. And even this will comes with its own maturity, much like when you exchange old wishes for new ones. Pathologically, liberation is only a resistance of the will to adversities that life offers. If it overcomes those setbacks, it would develop into a desire for pleasure, which then goes on to demand more and more of this pleasure. An obsession, it recognizes happiness. And when it fails to maintain it, it must destroy what it has built in order to recreate the attempt. When the pursuit of permanent happiness becomes your greatest desire, you cannot help but chase it. Although you are well aware that such thing does not exist, ultimately, you are all longing to die. But before that, you have a theater to perform. So many lies, taboos, and obligations to overcome. Human is dead. Are you alive? What are you looking for on a screen you're staring at? Entertainment after entertainment after entertainment. Your days are online. Your life is online. You just long. You've been conditioned to long for the sake of longing. Eleventh move. Do people consider the one who knows the truth to be intelligent? Yes. Is it because the truth alone makes one intelligent? Or that an intelligent seeks the truth? Or both? Both. Does the professor stand for the truth? No. Does he think he stands for the truth? Yes. Is he aware that he has no thoughts of his own? No. And if he were to realize this, what happens then? Then, he's fucked. And when more people start noticing that he does not stand for the truth but serves the system, does he take offense? Yes, he does. Is it the exposure that hurts? Or the fact that he doesn't stand for the truth? It is a revelation of who he is that hurts. Then he has never cared about the truth but only about his status. The fact that he does not stand for the truth is the truth. And now, he tries to fight it. No one in the system wants the truth, because it will set him free, causing their entire system to collapse. That thought is terrifying. What would be the professor's reaction hearing these statements? He will be jealous. Why? Recognizing your superiority, he wishes he was the one who saw the truth and created this book. Just like a conductor is jealous for the composer and a philosophy professor for the philosopher. May I ask you again, why? Not wanting the discomfort of feeling inferior, he wants to be like you. Precisely so. But knowing his limitations and still fighting the discomfort of the truth, he will judge you, analyze you, call all your statements theories, try to put you in a box. Man of today is not capable of understanding all this. This knowledge is for the man of the future. Everything moves towards pleasure. It is the path of energy, the path of creativity, ultimate happiness. Man is doomed to seek happiness. Happiness without interruption, without the moment of pain. In this respect, man's fate is predetermined. Although physiologically impossible, the attempt is repeated, again and again. Man basically cuts the process down to all goal accomplishments, all attempts, where creativity is replaced by accessibility, comfort. He has technology to thank for that. As the address is shortened to all pleasures, a new culture emerges and the old one dies. In that way, man is forced to seek a higher form of pleasure, or invent it. As man develops more advanced and dangerous technology, he puts his own existence and the whole civilization at risk. Whoever wants to survive must sooner or later exterminate the others. The followers, therefore, have a very limited time in the system before the extinction begins. It has arrived. Where is humanity going then? 12th move. At this point, I'm done with everything that goes by the name of human. I speak of what will happen in the next 6,000 years. I'm not predicting. I'm already there. I see and feel how everything moves in simultaneity, the direction all atoms are moving towards, which includes you, humans. Within 300 years, man will be finished with everything called history, information, and research. Be driven by the compulsion to create a world and not try to find it. All technology-formed accessibility will push man to achieve ultimate pleasure. Before that, the numerous phases the world will go through, agonizing phases, as every breath comes out of pain. Phase 1. As businessmen through technology satisfy more and more needs of the public, the market finds itself in a difficult situation, where you are forced to create problems in order to maintain businesses and apparatuses that already exist within a value system. For instance, increasing crime is productive. It puts everyone to work, from the police, healthcare, psychiatry, courts, to media. Similarly, war is beneficial to the value system, from armed cells to war refugees who are exploited as cheap labor. As long as there is competition between businessmen, people are needed as consumers. But with technology taking care of most aspects of survival, soon there is no need for slaves or workers. Phase 2. The machines are taking over more and more professions. Depression increases enormously among people as they no longer have a role in the value system. Fewer and fewer people have relationships with each other. Fewer children are born. Increased alcoholism, drug abuse, suicide. Phase 3. Dehumanization. As appreciation for all great things dies, the blood supply to all creativity is cut off. At this point, the vibration has stagnated tremendously. Phase 4. At this stage, technology can transform people's appearances without surgical intervention, manipulate cells to a greater extent, change gender, and begin to make man immortal. Now they realize that everything is only about experiences, and that you can create the experience in anything. No talk of self-conscious mind or soul, not even about DNA, as these are things that belong to the past. The value system is gone. There is no religion or morality. Man's only drive is creating experiences by planting memory cells in the machines. He has learned to recreate reality more limitlessly. Humans can also be creative without fertilization. Phase 5. Extensive control over atoms. They begin to recreate man as an independent nervous system, still with limits to how much pleasure he can experience. Radioactive radiation can still harm people. Therefore, nuclear weapons are still a threat. The main goal now is to create protection for this nervous system in which all experiences will exist. Phase 6. As all atoms move in the electromagnetic field, their movements have a history. All feelings and experiences are recorded there. Although time travel is impossible, given that energy moves in waves and not as a flat line, man would be able to copy and create an imitation of all that history. In about 6,000 of your early years, everything has returned to simultaneity, a condition where light and sound, along with all the elements found in the periodic table, are united into a disembodied electronic nervous system. Nausea. The world nerve. An independent entity that can both create and recreate every single experience that has ever occurred. Man is no longer there. He has become God, but disappeared as a body. By tracking how all atoms move, everything can be registered within nausea and recreated again. At this stage, the physical and the illusory have become one. There is neither knowledge nor understanding in this fusion, as everything has gone beyond intelligence. Everything meets and separates simultaneously. The energy moves like an imaginary snake that can enter itself, eat itself, and still remain. This is not something that can be explained to a human theoretical animal. The size of nausea is smaller than a coin, and yet the entire reality unfolds inside this tiny piece of technology which floats in that vacuum we call space. The first step for nausea is to experience everything. All pain, unclear deals between people, between will and resistance, will be settled there. And in the second step, the images will be removed from the feeling to stay with the feeling itself. In this phase, nausea has no resistance. When it releases all control, which is resistance, it achieves a powerful orgasm. In human body, pleasure and pain go together. You cannot experience one without the other. In order to understand pleasure, you have to understand pain. But in nausea, you can have pleasure without pain, as it is the end of all suffering. Also an end to understanding, because everything moves towards pleasure, and the highest pleasure is permanent orgasm, without purpose, without meaning, a samadhi. Oh my goodness, this long journey with all detours to achieve an orgasm that could also be achieved as a human? Yes, but not like any human. Orgasm is the highest knowledge when it extends over one's head. Only a few can achieve this condition, and they do not return to being human after experiencing this. When man understands the art of pleasure, he will also understand the truth, because truth is just a prelude to pleasure. You have by now forgotten much of the information you were given, and suppose that you were to remember everything. Still, none of this knowledge has grown from within you. It only remains as information and not a vibration. Of course, you can vibrate a little because you're reacting to what you think you're hearing. But you don't listen to me. You only listen to the meaning these words have within you, because you are the words that are from the past and are being activated within you. It happens automatically, even right now. You don't choose what your interpretation of this will be either. It takes a lifetime to understand parts of reality for a human, but less than 5 minutes to see everything as a seer. The unbraided truth. I saw it all within 5 minutes. Everything you heard from the first move until now has been nothing but a lie. Now, go back to your Instagram, follow your teachers, go vote, do anything you like. But remember, what happens is not a theory. You heard this. For God grew older. You died. What's so marvelous about you? Checkmate. To my brother Sam. You have listened to Anti-Human, written and read by Oweis. Text editing by Yeva Kisalute.